Good morning and welcome to the 2019 District Red Carpet event. This is the pre-show for our district's faculty meeting. I see a lot of new faces out there. If you don't know who I am, I'm Kelly Hayes.
And I'm Van Stewman, and we're your hosts for this 30-minute red carpet event here leading up to our district faculty meeting. Now, we're going to be interviewing some teachers and other special guests on the red carpet out front, and we're also going to be introducing some new exciting things that are going on in the district this year. But first, none of this would be possible without our sponsors. So before we start, let's take a little time to thank them.
Thank you again to all of our sponsors. Now let's get this event started. Let's go to the red carpet with HAR-BER High School student Nick Luttrell. He's standing by with Don Tyson's School of Innovation's robotics teacher, Drew Samuelson. Nick, take it away.
Thanks, guys. Here we are with Mr. Drew Samuelson, the robotics teacher. Sorry about that. Later, we'll talk a little about your national recognition you received. First of all, we talk about just the skills that your students are learning in your class.
Oh gosh, so a ton of engineering skills, but business practices as well. We keep an engineering notebook throughout the event, and so it processes everything that we do. But they also have to keep up with our budget, our travel schedule, all the things that go around those items, and so there's a lot of application skills towards college or career that they're getting.
That's awesome. We talked about the nationwide recognition that your team was able to receive. So
our typical season runs September through April, and in April at Worlds we were able to win the Inspire Award, which goes to the team the judges feel performed best in all judging categories. And of that, the team has been asked to be Team USA for a new competition called First, which is kind of like a robotics Olympics that will take place in Dubai in October.
Yeah, and you mentioned about that Dubai trip. Talk to us a little bit more about that. It's kind of a once-in-a-lifetime thing for your students, for you. Maybe talk to us about the trip and maybe some sponsors along the way for that trip.
Absolutely. So, yeah, absolutely nailed it, that once-in-a-lifetime deal. We'll be taking a 5-member team along with 2 additional students, our coaches, Dr. Richard Cassidy and Dr. Chase Rainwater, and myself, and there will be another female going as well, Dr. Cassidy's wife. But we're going to head over there, and some of us will be volunteering. Other team members are going to be participating in the event, and yeah, so thank you to Tyson, and thank you to Springdale Chamber of Commerce, who has been a big fueling and getting us over there and making sure that we're completely funded for the event.
Yeah, Mr. Samuelson, thank you for being here today.
Absolutely.
Best of luck for the rest of this year.
Thank you.
We're going to send it back to you guys.
Hey, thanks, Nick, and congratulations to Mr. Samuelson and his team on that great accomplishment this summer. Now, we have a huge event coming up on August 28th. Mr. Hayes, will you tell us about that?
Absolutely. On Wednesday, August 28th at 6 p.m. at Arvis Ballpark, we are having our back-to-school celebration. There will be vendor booths for families and live performances from our choir, band, spirit squads. The first 10,000 people get in for free, and there's something for everyone. Bring the kids, bring the family, and let's celebrate our community.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds like a great event. Remember that it's August 28th. That's the back-to-school rally at Arvis Park. Remember that the parking is free. The first 10,000 people get in free, and then you can stay after and watch the game where the Naturals take on Midland. What's Midland's mascot?
I have no idea.
The Middlemen? I don't know. It's got to be better than the Amarillo Sod Poodles, though. It's got to be better than the Sod Poodles. Anyway, come out to that event that night, and I think you'll have a great time. Now, out front, we have Daniel Cabrera from Springdale High School, and he's helping to welcome some teachers back to school. So, Daniel, take it away.
All right. Miss Paul from the fantastic school of Central Junior High. And what is it what are some words that you want to say to new teachers coming into this school?
You need to look for where the children are and take the challenge of finding ways to move them forward. It's not just the academics. You're working on character, on leadership. It's so much more than the academics. And you absolutely don't think you're by yourself. It gets overwhelming if you're on all by yourself. Collaborate, talk, your principals, your fellow teachers, even people out of your curriculum area. You absolutely have to talk and make those connections, not just with your fellow educators, but make the connections with the parents. Make the connections first with the children, always.
So you had this summer, right?
Yeah.
You went on vacation, didn't you?
I did.
Where did you go to vacation?
Well, one of the places I went, even though it was very hot, is I went to Albuquerque, but I enjoyed that area of the world. I also went to a place called Chautauqua, New York, which was just fabulous and very relaxing. You also, teachers, have to take, new teachers, find time for yourself. And I know that people that I work with are going to think that's the pot calling the kettle black, but you really do have to take care of yourself.
Wow, I'd have to visit one of those. And the theme this year is why. So why did you teach?
I think I early on recognized that I could see needs in children. I started substituting, and when I walked into a room, I could see that they needed something, and I could recognize it. And now it's a challenge, but it's a challenge that I think I can help meet, and I can contribute to the meeting of that challenge and getting to the point where we really are teaching all.
That's very good. Well, thank you so much, Ms. Paul. I hope you have a great year, great final year.
Well, you're graduating senior year.
Thank you. You have a good year. All right, Mr. Stewman, Mr. Hayes, this is back to you.
Thanks, Daniel. I'm sure you've all seen the new website that we have this year. It features a new design and easier than ever able to retrieve information easily. Totally blew that line. It's definitely something that's going to help you all out this year. We encourage you to check it out. And if that wasn't enough, we're also rolling out a new app. Van, tell us about it.
That's right. The Springdale Schools app can be found on Google Play or at the App Store, and it's got a lot of features that are going to be great. The parents will be able to go on there, and they'll be able to look up lunch menus. They'll be able to see the district calendar. You can access live feeds from the app, and there's going to be so much more than that go on too. So make sure that you check out the new district website, which I guess you'll have to if you work here every day.
And that's www.sdale.org.
That's right. But also check out the new app. I downloaded that the other day myself, and it really is cool. You could probably watch us right now on there, although I don't know why you'd want to.
I don't either. I have no idea.
Even if you couldn't see this, why would you want to watch us?
All right, let's head on back out to Nick Luttrell, who's standing by with a very familiar face that you've been hearing about this summer. Nick?
Here we are with the man that needs no introduction, but in case you didn't know him, he is Arkansas Teacher of the Year semifinalist Joel Lukadu. Mr. Lukadu, will you just kind of tell us about the honor just of receiving the semifinalist award?
Oh, it's a great honor. I mean, I'm really humbled just to be able to represent Springdale. There's so many great teachers here in this district that do such a good job. So, I mean, I want to do my best to represent for all the teachers here. The other semifinalists are great candidates too. So we'll see what happens, but I truly take this as a big honor.
Yeah, and we just kind of talked to us about the process of having this award, kind of what led to you becoming this award.
So it started with our building like nominated people and voted on that, and then kind of went to the district level, and there was an application process. So it's kind of writing some stuff about what you believe in, what you do, and so went to that, and then got down to 15, and got to go to Little Rock, and they announced the Final Four from there. So. that's where we're at.
That's so cool. When can we expect the finalists to be? Obviously, you're semifinalists. When can we expect for you to be maybe announced as maybe you win the whole thing, and that would be awesome. When can we expect that?
So they'll come and do classroom observations and some interviews at the end of September, and then after that, they kind of give a vague timeline. So anywhere from October to the beginning of December, it'll be announced from there.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And obviously, like we talked about, Teacher of the Year semifinalist and Amazing Award. For those that are new teachers here to Springdale Public Schools, maybe they're a few years in, what can you tell them to maybe give them some advice?
We don't do this alone. We do this with a team. I've worked with a tremendous team the past 6 years, from leadership team to my PLC that I get to work with on a daily basis. It's a team effort. And so to everyone, that'd be my biggest thing. Like, you're not out there alone. You have others to work with you, and use them, rely on them, lean on them.
Yeah. Mr. Lukadu, one of the themes we're trying to capture through all of this is the question why behind all of this. Why do you personally, why do you do what you do as a teacher?
I'm able to help students really realize that, whatever their dreams are, they can become reality, and I want to help them pursue their passion, and that's different for every kid, and so whatever that is, I want them to find their place and go after it with everything they have, and that's why I do it.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Lukadu, and just good luck for the rest of the year.
Thank you.
That's another reason. Back to you guys.
Without question, the Springdale School District is the best in the state. As we continue to explore the question why, Van, why did you become an educator?
Well, that's 30 years ago there was one answer. The reason I'm still an educator is probably another answer. But probably like a lot of you, I really enjoyed school. I had great teachers, and I was an athlete and had great coaches, and I loved all of them, and they had a great impact on my life. So I just sort of, when I went into college, I got a math degree and thought, well, what can you do with a math degree? Well, you can teach. And if I go in and coach, it's kind of like I'm still on the team. And so basically, I got to never leave school. And I'm sure a lot of you are like that too. So initially, I just wanted to continue being part of school, and I wanted to help others kind of have a great experience like I did. But over the years, my why has sort of shifted a little bit. And I don't know about you, Mr. Hayes, maybe this has been your experience, but a lot of 13-year-olds and 14-year-olds that roll into junior high have anxiety. Probably actually every one of them do.
So do people speaking on camera in front of 16.
That's true.
Yeah.
And so for years I've seen these kids that have social anxiety. They're extremely fearful of speaking in front of others. They're fearful of situations where they have to meet new people that they don't already know. And some of them act like they don't have that anxiety, but really 99% of them do. And so as an oral comm and theater and video teacher, what I get to do is put kids making a speech in front of a classroom or on a stage in front of 70 or 80 students crammed in there watching them perform, or have them go out and interview adults, teachers, and other students, or do voiceovers or do stand-ups on camera for a video that they know is going to be seen by the entire school, and it's going to go on YouTube, and anybody in the world can see it. And to watch those students face those fears and sort of overcome that as they go through a year, or at least not totally overcome it, but not be crippled by that fear, that's extremely satisfying to me, and that's why I love what I do, and I think I have the best job in Springdale Schools, getting to teach theater and oral comm and video production at Lakeside Junior High. Well, now, you have a unique perspective coming from the administrative side, so what's your why, Mr. Hayes?
When I was in high school, my senior year, I took accounting. My teacher was Mrs. Hefner, and I didn't realize it at the time, but Mrs. Hefner was only 5 years older than we were. Now, you would have never guessed that, because when you got in Mrs. Hefner's class, she always was prepared, we were on task, and she did an outstanding job. So I went to college, majored in accounting, got a job in the business world, But then Cabot Schools, the position I hold here at Springdale, came open at Cabot Schools. I thought, what a great opportunity to work with teachers, be around kids. So I took advantage of that opportunity, worked there for 17 years, and the opportunity to work in Springdale, which then, we say it, but Springdale does have an awesome reputation around the state. There were only a handful of districts I would leave my hometown to come to, and Springdale was on that very short list. So that was 11 years ago. I'm thrilled to be here. That's my why.
Well, that's great.
As we continue to explore that question, let's head back out to the red carpet and talk to Daniel.
I'm here with Miss Barker, the Assistant Athletics Manager for Springdale Public Schools. Miss Barker, how was your summer?
It was great. I got to travel. I got to go to Florida, and I went to Boston for the first time. Really great.
The theme this year is why. Why did you teach, Miss Barker?
I taught because I wanted to give students the best experience that they could have in the classroom and to give them the tools they needed to succeed and become lifelong learners and to grow and reach all their dreams.
Well, that's great. That is great. Okay, Miss Barker, we have a dance competition.
Oh, well, I hope people do well in it.
Can we see your best dances, Miss Barker?
Do I have to?
I mean, there's thousands of people watching. Too?
Not really.
Not really?
I don't want to make anybody jealous.
Okay. Well, Miss Barker, I wish I could have seen it, but we thank you so much for helping us and with this interview. I hope you have a great year.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you so
Bye-bye.
much. Mr. Stewman, Mr. Hart, thank you. And back to you guys.
All right, well, you know, Miss Barker and Mr. Lookadoo and Mr. Samuelson are just some of the reasons that Springdale School is the choice. So let's take a look at something right now, and remember this, #TheChoice.
There's just so many great things happening here. It's a great place to be. They have a lot of good communities like K-Kids, East, and Girls on the Run.
We give every student in the Springdale Public Schools the opportunity to succeed. It can be in an activity, it can be in band, choir, athletics, cheer, dance. It can be academically through History Day.
Our East program, the technology that we have available to the kids.
We have the IB program, we have Medical Academy, Law Academy, Agri Academy.
The students get to be involved not just in the schools and doing things for the school, but being out in the community as well.
There's so many advantages and opportunities that a large city kind of affords its community, but still kind of has that hometown small feel about it, which I think is unique for such a large city.
The Springdale Public Schools presents the Back to School Rally on August 28th at Arvest Ballpark. The first 10,000 tickets and parking is free for all Springdale Schools families and staff. Watch the pregame show beginning at 6 p.m. featuring Springdale Schools bands, choirs, spirit squads, and more. Over 40 interactive booths with games and face painting, food specials, and a free kid zone. Get a picture with Strike and watch the Naturals take on Midland. This is a night you won't want to miss. Come celebrate the new school year with the Springdale Schools and the Northwest Arkansas Naturals. Springdale Schools is the choice for your family.
Springdale has a lot of diversity in our city, and I think that makes it pretty special.
We got Marshallese people, like there's barely any other like Marshallese in like other cities and states.
You're able to come across people from all different types of backgrounds, and we all are working towards the same goal, becoming better.
I'm proud to be in Springdale because of the way that things are laid out for us, especially as a teacher. It's really great that we have a good curriculum and that we're all, held accountable for being the best teacher that we can be.
We're kind of growing up together in the district.
We may have
two sides of a city only separated by a street, but everyone in the city works together.
We're constantly working with each other to basically be the best district in the state.
Springdale is awesome.
We have so many different schools within the district, but we all are one Springdale.
Keeping on the theme of #TheChoice, we'd like to share a story with you now about one of our students, Arkhan Langenbelik.
Yeah, Arkhan is a 13-year-old student who is about to enter Lakeside Junior High starting tomorrow, but he began at Sonora Elementary School. He joined the East program there. He moved on from there to the East program at Sonora Middle School, and while he was in East, Arkhan began studying 3D printing. And Arkhan had a reason to be really motivated about 3D printing, and he eventually printed his own leg using a 3D printer. So let's hear the story.
A company called 50 Legs heard about this project. They flew Arkhan to Orlando and provided him with 2 custom-made prosthetic legs. Take a look at this trailer about his journey and just why Springdale is the choice.
We struggle. We live just like anybody else does, paycheck to paycheck, but Arkhan has special needs.
When you see him walking down the hall, he's got a noticeable limp. His leg is clearly too small now.
My parents had to pay for a new leg every year.
The insurance that he's on doesn't even recognize prosthetics.
We had him using Tinkercad a little bit, which allowed him to get in front of the computer and just kind of play around, make a birdhouse, make a car. And it wasn't for a couple of months until he started thinking, all right, well, what about this leg?
It's changed my life because I didn't even know what 3D printing was. Now I'm just constantly thinking of new ideas that I can do.
I had heard the story about Arkhan printing a 3D leg for himself, and the fact that he only got a leg every 3 years for a child, that's totally unacceptable.
It's a shame that a teacher has to look at one of their students and then has to get a hold of a community, and the community here just stepped up to help him. But him not being able to get that and to be able to live up to his potential, it's a shame that we do this to our kids when it's so easy to help them.
You know, over here is basically like a big family. Makes me feel like I'm home.
I'm so happy, excited and happy for him because he needed it.
I feel bad. I messed up Arkhan's last name earlier. It's Langenbelik. Langenbelik. An absolutely incredible story. Be sure to watch With One Step, which will premiere Labor Day weekend.
Now we're getting near the end of our pre-show here. We're going to get the big show going here in just a little bit. But before we wrap it up, let's go back out to the red carpet. Nick Luttrell has got Dr. Jared Cleveland out there, and let's hear what he has to say. Nick!
Thanks, Mr. Hayes. Here we are with Dr. Cleveland. Tell us about the vision you have for this upcoming school year.
Hey, I just want the school year to be fun and exciting and make sure that we help our kids achieve their highest levels, and I want to have an opportunity to achieve at their highest level as well. Ought to be a lot of fun, really.
And we've talked about it all day, the why behind everything. Specifically for you, why do you choose education?
Education pretty much chose me. I had the good fortune of having a mother that was an educator and a dad who really enjoyed education and wound up being an attorney, and so they focused my brother and my sisters and me to make sure that we could achieve everything that we wanted to. And with the heart that I grew of wanting to serve others, this was a natural fit for me, and of course 25 years later, here I am.
Now, what do you want to say to the staff as we go into the 2019-20 school year?
The staff has been absolutely outstanding in prepping. I think this is my 7th year, so I've hired about 1,300, almost 1,400 new staff members, so I feel like they're part of my family. The ones that have been here even prior to me, I go to them as a resource. Marjay Hignite and others that are out in the audience today, they are great people that I rely on to get feedback from and how to lead this place with Dr. Rollins and the rest of the team. So really, This whole place is full of the best people, in my view, in the nation, but certainly in the state. And they're rock stars. They're, as ESPN future analyst, right, they are the cream of the crop, the NBA, if you will, or the NFL. They're the ones who can get it done at the highest level, and they do. I see that every day.
Dr. Cleveland, thank you so much for your hard work and guidance throughout all this year. Wish you the best of luck this school year.
Thank you.
That's going to do us.
Seeing you on ESPN.
Oh, thank you. That's going to do us for us at the red carpet. On behalf of Daniel Cabrera and myself and Nick Luttrell, we'll send it back to you guys.
And we're gonna Hey, thanks, Nick. And thanks to Nick and Daniel. Didn't they do a great job out there on the red carpet?
They did an awesome job.
I mean, those are high school students out there interviewing their teachers, administrators, and I thought they did an awesome job. Also, it's been cool for me to watch the video here and watch all the teachers stop and get their pictures along the red carpet.
That is fun.
That was really cool. Well, there's less than 5 minutes left before we get started, so get to your seats.
Yeah, find your seat, people.
If you're wandering around, find your seats. If there's one left, I noticed right down here on the front row there are several seats left. But anyway, it's about time to get started. But before we start, we'd like to take some time again to thank our sponsors who make all of this possible.
This program is sponsored in part by McLarty Daniel, Sam's Furniture, Tyson Foods, Arvest Bank, and the Arkansas Broadcasters Association.
On the counter, finds a hole, Garrett inside the 5, touchdown Springdale. Shot good! Wide open Trey Smith, touchdown Har-BER Wildcats!
We always try to work together, especially when it comes to big projects or things that could help our education system.
They always make it a fun way because sometimes we play board games, but they're also mathematical.
They have, the opportunities to take so many different courses, and I didn't know that classes like, advertising, graphic design, and marketing and things like that existed because those weren't options where I was.
They use technology in the classroom, and it prepares our students for a wonderful future.
And I was able to work in the classrooms, and it's given me a first-hand experience at being a good educator myself.
Springdale School is great. I love it. My teacher is awesome.
My teachers encourage me to become the best person that I can be, not just academically, but in all aspects of my life.
The education offered here, if you want to be challenged, they challenge you. I've been able to grow from that and just take on more.
Follow Springdale Public Schools on all social media platforms. On Facebook and Twitter, you can find up-to-date information about events, school closures, and student and faculty achievements. Instagram provides weekly highlights and major news. YouTube is the home for sports live streams, district news, student productions, school board meetings, and live performances. Connect to Springdale Public Schools for pictures, videos, news, events, and more.
Choose the wellness.
All right, that does it for our 2019 Red Carpet event. On behalf of Van Stewman and myself, we wish all of you an incredible year and thank you for your service to Springdale Schools.
Now, to get this thing started, we're going to kick off the 2019 District Faculty meeting with a big countdown. Are you ready for the countdown?
Oh, we can do better than that. Are you ready?
All right, here we go. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And now the legend, Rick Schaefer!
Welcome. We get a mic. Welcome to the only time all year that we will have everybody together at one time. Isn't it great to be all here together? 23,000 students coming, and there are nearly 2,000 faculty members here today. We're going to start our ceremony today with a presentation of colors and the Pledge of Allegiance from the HAR-BER High School and Springdale High School. FFA, and they will be followed by the national anthem sung by the superintendent's choir.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming. And the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Just like opening day, right? Sing the national anthem, we're ready to play ball. We're going to start. Those of you who have been away in the summer and were in a cave and didn't realize that we've hired 2 new assistant superintendents, Mary Bell Childress and the lady I'm about, that's right, cheer for her, and the young lady we're about to introduce, and she's got a special guest with her, Assistant Superintendent Miss Shannon Tischer.
Good morning. I brought a friend. My name is Shannon Tischer. As Mr. Schaefer said, I am one of the assistant superintendents. This year, our district theme and focus is Start with Why. And so as we reflected as a team, we thought, what a better way than to help us find and connect with our why than to bring a former student. So Sojus Wagle is a graduate of HAR-BER High School. He attended Walker Elementary, Helen Tyson Middle School, Southwest Junior High, and then graduated from HAR-BER High School. Sojus, who will be a freshman at Brown University, is planning on pursuing a double concentration in cognitive science and theater arts. He joined the International Youth Neuroscience Association as the journal editor-in-chief after being crowned the 2017 International Brain Bee Champion, and he hopes to use his passion for discovering the enigmas of the brain to be a pediatric psychiatrist for at-risk LGBTQ+ youth. In his free time, he enjoys watching and uploading reviews of films to his YouTube channel, editing blogs for College Express, playing the violin, and volunteering with Arkansas United, an immigration advocacy nonprofit. In his senior year of HAR-BER High School, Sojas was named a Coca-Cola Scholar, National AP Scholar, National Merit Scholar, National Honor Society Scholar, Taco Bell Foundation Liv Moss Scholar, U.S. Presidential Scholar, United States Senate Youth Program Delegate, and Billy Michael Student Leadership Award recipient. Woo! Currently, he is conducting research on the behavior of zebrafish larvae in the Colwell Laboratory at Brown University. And to close with a fun fact, Sojas will be turning 18 in 2 days. Please welcome Sojas Wagle.
Now, before I begin my spiel, I would like to thank Dr. Rollins, Dr. Smith, Ms. Tischer, and everyone who made it possible for me to be on the stage and speak with you guys today. And speaking of spiel, I thought it would be nice to impart a little factoid I learned while writing this speech. And that is that the word spiel actually came from the German word meaning game. Yet somehow, as the word has been passed down from generation to generation and from culture to culture, it entered English and adopted the meaning of verbose speech. This shaping of words' meanings has occurred throughout linguistic history, especially now as members of my own generation and millennials redefine words in ways I'm sure annoy you guys a lot. But this actually got me thinking. Just like the words in the English language, I too have changed. I've changed my direction and guided my purpose on a different path throughout my time at Springdale Public Schools. And I'm sure that every one of you can relate to the uneasy feeling of being in limbo from when you were in school. That feeling of not knowing what you're going to do with your life. And even though I have 4 years of college to look forward to where I can continue to experiment with different fields of study, I couldn't be more thankful to start my process of experimentation right here in this district. Because, in my opinion, that's what the purpose of this district really is: experimentation. Or the why, as Simon Sinek would say, which, by the way, is someone who I'm very glad I was introduced to while writing this speech. Your purpose as teachers is to help your students with the experimentation process, facilitate their exploration as they dive into math, literature, history, science, the arts, and everything in between. Because, as you can empathize with, school is a scary, frustrating time for all students because of that relentless feeling of uncertainty. Now, you guys are probably wondering where teaching comes in. Well, you just answered the how. The only way students can experiment is if they have teachers who teach. But don't forget the what, which is passion. When you teach with passion, you open doors to a world where your students can fully explore a field of study and see if it's right for them, like trying on an outfit in a fitting room. Without a committed, passionate teacher, a student can easily dismiss a field of study for the sole reason of, oh, I had a bad teacher, when in reality, it would have been a perfect match. And to the AP and IB teachers in the room today, I am so sorry, because you guys have the additional responsibility of teaching to a test whose content you have no control over. Even if there are negative connotations associated with the phrase teaching to the test, keep doing it wholeheartedly. Your students will thank you later when they have college credit brimming in their pockets. It's easy to forget that you guys are the educational superheroes of today, training the superheroes of tomorrow. You have the delicate and wildly difficult task of shaping individuals who are still growing and susceptible to the slightest change in their environment. People who aren't teachers like to think that the hardest part of your job is dealing with kids who have their fingers in their ears 24/7 and who are stubborn to listen to anyone but themselves. But even though I admit this happens, and even though I admit I was and probably still am fitting this description, I know, and you know, that the managing of hormones and dealing with drama is just the tip of the iceberg. Because the burden of holding your students in your hands like newborn chicks who could either fly or fall based on how well you do your job is far more nerve-wracking. And if you do feel stressed enough to pull your hair out sometimes, I have some unsettling news for you. It means you're doing it right. It means you care. And I promise I'm not trying to sound patronizing by telling you guys how to do your job, because my only experience with teaching has been some ACT touring on the side. But I don't need to tell you how to do your job, because you guys already know how. And that's what I love about this district so much. I absolutely admire every one of you in this room right now for doing the impossible, for completing Simon Sinek's golden circle by teaching with passion, so that one day, one or more of your past students can return as adults and candidly tell you that your class, your passionate, fiery instruction ignited the spark for them to figure out that your field of expertise will now be theirs. You teach so that even one student can discover a conclusion to their haphazard experimentation, so that they can finally stop searching for a fitting career like a diamond in the rough. But with that said, I'm not going to feign confidence and say that I know with 100% what I'm going to do in the future. Instead, with the knowledge, drive, and zeal that I've gained after calling Springdale Public Schools home for the past 13 years, I can unwaveringly say this: your passionate instruction made it profoundly easier for me to narrow down my career interests and prospects. You guys were selfless and self-sacrificing enough to teach with all your heart, with the glimmer of hope that at least one student will one day come to benefit from your words and appreciate how much you've tirelessly labored for them. So if someone hasn't said this to you already today, thank you. I've enjoyed experimenting with many of you over the past 13 years, and here's to even more experimenting in the years to come. Thank you.
Would anyone like to follow that? I don't know how one could be more gratified than to be a Springdale teacher and to just be a part of the young people's lives in the school system. We see that kind of example over and over and over again. So we're so very proud of you. Recognize him again. Will you do that for me? He will be a difference maker for good, no matter where he goes. When we say that this is the greatest profession in the world, what an example of that we've had already, just in a few moments this morning. The opening, the beautiful rendition that we heard by the superintendent's choir, just a beautiful way to open and celebrate. I have with me today one of our own. Joel Luckadoo is an established teacher in our district, a recognized teacher in our district. He's committed professional to the highest degree. He was Springdale's nominee for the State Teacher of the Year. Just a few days ago, some of the staff had the privilege to be in the governor's mansion along with 15 nominees from around the state. And it was a beautiful ceremony. We all enjoyed the moment. Being with Joel anytime is an enormous pleasure. But then came the part of the ceremony where the governor announced that we would narrow the field to 4 finalists. Did you have a little anxiety in your tummy, just a little bit? Because they were all great. They were beautiful teachers from all over the state. The first teacher was recognized and the tension grew just a little bit. And then we all had the opportunity to sigh, great sigh of relief. Joel Luckadoo from Springdale Public Schools, Springdale, Arkansas, was the second person to be named as a state finalist for Teacher of the Year. Help me welcome this great teacher. Would you do that?
Well, thank you. You know, when I think about this district, I think of all learners reaching high levels of achievement and growth, all learners being college and career ready, all learners, which includes the black kid, the white kid, the brown kid, the rich kid, the poor kid, the kid growing up middle class. It includes the quiet kid, the kid who won't stop talking. It includes the kid born in Springdale, the kid born in another country, the kid who has loving parents at home, and the kid who has parents who have abandoned them. In this district, we have truly set the bar high that we teach them all. And you know, we think about how do we meet those lofty expectations to make sure that not only some students see success, but all students see success. And for me, it comes back to 2 foundational things: relationships and belief. I love that in this district, we not only communicate with our students, but we connect with our students. We have to make sure that our classrooms are a place where all students feel accepted and cared for, a place where kids can't wait to get to, because they know that in this classroom, no matter what they've heard on TV or seen through social media, or whatever their circumstances may be, they know that in this classroom, they are valued for who they are. So relationships are vital to learning, and so is the power of belief. We all know Hattie's research tells us the number 1 factor that impacts student achievement is collective teacher efficacy, the belief that we as educators can positively impact student achievement. Yeah. But sometimes in this work, we don't have all the answers, which is why I love the quote by Robin Sharma, and he says, "Make your I can more important than your IQ." Think about that for a minute. Make your I can more important than your IQ. Do we possess the same growth mindset that we tell our students to have? Do we persist even when we make mistakes? You know, and it's really not about I can, it's about we can. Hattie didn't say it was teacher efficacy, he said it was collective teacher efficacy. We do not do this work alone. I would not be up here today if it were not for the team that I've had the opportunity to serve with, from the leadership team, my PLC, and a whole staff that continuously challenges each other to grow and to improve. We do not do this work alone, but we do impact students' lives every day through the choices we make, through the attitudes we show, and the words we use. And for that reason, every action matters. Every day matters, because every student matters. So let's go love and serve the community of Springdale together. Thank you.
Thank you, Joel. I think he's got a pretty good shot, don't you? Did you love the red carpet? Did you love it? Come on. A little wary about the interview when you get Van and Kelly with a microphone. You never know where that's going to take you. But they did a pretty good job too. Would you recognize them? I do want to thank you for choosing to serve in the Springdale school system. I look forward to the best year we've ever had. We continue to grow. We continue to get better at getting better. We continue to personalize teaching and learning. Think for a moment, 23,000 kids. That's a lot of opportunity, isn't it? And they're there for us to be a part of their lives, to help influence them, to help them make decisions to become more and more in charge of their own learning. You heard that in our opening remarks just a few days ago. It is now our opportunity to live it and breathe it. The idea to build confident learners, to help them really understand the potential and promise they have. That is enormous. I do believe this is the finest educational team in our state. We teach children from all backgrounds. We know that 71% of our student population is made up of children of poverty. Great kids, beautiful children with all the potential in the world. All we have to do is to do our work at the highest level to help them grow and develop confidence so they can stand here, just as Sojas did, and talk and dream about the great future that they'll have. 65% of our children did not speak English as their native language. So clearly we have challenges. We know the work's hard. We know that we have to get better. Raise your hand if you know that. Let me see your hand. Y'all are so great to acknowledge that each and every year. I would assure you, as someone who has a chance to look across the work of almost 2,000 teachers, we are getting better and better and better. Our district is growing in prominence at the state and national level. Our children and our teachers and principals are leading the way. And for that, we all say thank you. Great job. I do want you to be thoughtful as you are here this morning. And for just a moment in your mind, reflect back on all of those who have helped make this opening of school possible. It's not one or two or three, it's hundreds of people who work to make this a special day for each of you. Our children, they're here today. They'll be a part of this program they've prepared for you and you alone. Our parents have been a part of that process. You just saw the great work of our Chamber of Commerce. But also understand that our legislators and our governor and our State Board of Education, and the list goes on and on, are all there with the Springdale school system. They understand our challenges. They understand the work, the great tradition that's been put in place here over time. The Springdale School District, because of each of you, is making a mark within our state and beyond. I would say to you, just as a testament, and I hope you will enjoy as I do. If you look back just this past year, and perhaps the year before, more than 100 significant teams from within our state, from adjoining states, and again beyond, have traveled here, spent time here, talked with you, learned from each of you, all with the idea that they might borrow from the great work that's going on in the Springdale school system, take it home, certainly personalize it to fit their own needs, but to better serve children across our country. I hope you understand the significance of that. I believe that you do. The work that's ahead of us this year will allow us to continue to grow that great tradition. It only requires our best work every day. That's who we are. That's who we've signed on to be, because we know we have children to serve. That is what drives each of us. As we do this work, I never want you to tire of teach them all. All means all. What a challenge that is. As we all know, it's a challenge of a lifetime. If you look at the outcomes of that work, and I've spoken to some of them already, but we're graduating more and more students from the Springdale School District. More than 1,400 this past year. Well over $20 million in scholarship earned. You know the great tradition that your work has produced. We're preparing our students to be both career ready and college ready. We're preparing our students to compete from children from all over the world so that they are better prepared to pursue their own futures. And we're developing a model of personalized learning that, as I've already stated, may well be one of the very best in our nation today. So never doubt that each of you and this great team is making an enormous difference. We're advancing our profession at home and beyond. To give you just a little bit more evidence of the great work that this team has done over time, I'm going to ask for the audience to help me just a little bit. And I'm going to ask you to stand if this descriptor applies to you, and just stay standing until I finish this recognition. If you've been named a state or national principal or assistant principal of the year, would you please stand and remain standing? If you've been named a state or national teacher of the year, would you please stand and remain standing? If you've been named by your professional organization as an educator of the year, would you please stand and remain standing? If you've been named at any time in your career as a building teacher of the year, would you please stand and remain standing? As I told you, we've just invited 120 new teachers to our midst. I told them at the time they were joining the best teaching team in the state of Arkansas. I also told them that we would be much better with their additions. New teachers, all of us in the room today, let's thank again these great teachers who've helped set the way toward educational excellence in our school system. It does take a team. I believe we have one of the great teams, one of the greatest teams really that one could imagine. It's also now my great privilege to introduce our school board. I've said this so many times, I've never quite felt they took it to heart, but we do. Whatever excellence exists in a school system begins and ends with the school board. It's the school board that sets the foundation that allows our teachers, our principals, our central office staff to do the work that we do every day. Without them, if we weren't united, if we were separated, the achievements that we've seen over time, I expect, would be greatly reduced. I want you to welcome our school board as I recognize them. Welcome them as a whole before I start. With your applause, please do that. Mr. Kevin Owenby, the president of our board. Will you recognize Kevin, please? Ms. Michelle Cook, our vice president. Michelle, would you please stand? Mr. Randy Hutchinson, our secretary-treasurer. Ms. Debbie Creek. Mr. Nick Emerson, Mr. Mike Luttrell, Mr. Eddie Ramos. With your applause, welcome Kevin to the microphone.
So you know how awe-inspiring this is and kind of nerve-wracking for someone who doesn't speak in front of people pretty much any time of the year. So anyway, we want to welcome you on behalf of the school board to the 2019-2020 school year. I know Dr. Rollins and most of you have focused on the why over the last couple of weeks. And I've also thought about my why I'm on the school board, why do I serve? Of course, I think public education is critically important, but I'm most honored to serve my community of Springdale. Springdale is a special place. The Springdale community is a family. Just think about it. Students, parents, teachers, support staff, administration, the school board, community and business partners, the Chamber of Commerce, the City Council, many, many more. All of us make up the Springdale family, and we are all in this together. I would like to focus on the word family, so let's start with the letter F. F is for friendships. Friendships build relationships, in my opinion. Dr. Rollins has been known to stress relationships, and I think he's very right. Keep building those relationships with students, co-workers, and community partners. I believe these relationships will continue to make Springdale a better place. A is for attitude of gratitude. Boy, don't we have a lot to be thankful for. And I need to take this one a little seriously more myself. But truly, when you start each day being grateful for what you have, I believe it changes our attitudes to be more positive throughout the day. M is for mission. We all have a clear mission established. We can work together to achieve it, and I think this one, our mission here at Springdale, is easy for you. And I know you can say it with me. Teach in all means. We can achieve this mission together. I is for influence. I actually got a descriptor yesterday in church. The statement was made, leadership is influence, either by design or default. Each of you are in a leadership role and will influence each student that walks in your classroom tomorrow. So let's be a positive influence. L is for light. And just as the song says, this little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine. Be the light. You may be the only light some of our kids have in their day. So shine your light brightly. And finally, Y is for you. You are the key part of the Springdale family. You are the professionals. You are on the front lines. You are the ones who teach, influence, build relationships, and guide our students. You are important. I'm going to leave you with a word of truth from the good book, from Ephesians 2:10. For we are all God's handiwork, created in Christ Jesus, to do good works, like teach, which God prepared for you in advance. So let's do this. Have a great year.
Serving with this board is such a privilege. It's really fun as well. Every board meeting we recognize the great accomplishments of our kids, the great work of our teachers, the partnerships that come together. As all of you know who've been a part of those meetings on a monthly basis, about the first hour of every meeting, we celebrate the work that goes on in the school district, and we build that tradition together. We build it together. We build it together. There's one other very special guest that I've asked to come and speak with us this morning. I've known this gentleman really throughout his career, Dr. Fitzhill. Dr. Hill has served in, frankly, every arena in the public schools, the schools in the state, including higher ed, et cetera. He now serves on the State Board of Education. along with our own Miss Kathy McFettridge, by the way, who's here this morning with us. Kathy, we're so glad to have you. Dr. Hill, if you'd come up and join me. I just wanted him to speak for just a few moments. I wanted him to share his heart with all of us. I wanted you to see his commitment to children and what his career of service has been like. And as we do all along the way, we continue to learn, and we've had such great mentors and examples over time. Dr. Hill, we're so glad to have you today.
Thank you, Dr. Rollins. Good morning, good morning, good morning. So happy to be here and bring you greetings from Central Arkansas State Board of Education, where I have the privilege of serving and trying to help uplift and do everything that I've heard this morning. And kudos to you all for doing it so well. You're setting a standard, you're leading by example, and I love that you love kids and students and the community. I'm going to say a few things. As you know, I'm a coach. I don't like to be behind the podium, but I'm going to say this real quick and I'll get out of here. I want to say kudos to Mr. Luckadoo for his points brought out, because I want you to take this with you this year. This is from a football coach evaluating potential and trying to win. Assessment is an evaluation, not a prediction. Assessment is an evaluation, not a prediction. I'll give you a story. Last week, Anthony Lucas was just selected to be in Arkansas Hall of Honor. I recruited Anthony from Tallulah, Louisiana, and he wouldn't mind me telling you this because he's like my son. Went to Tallulah, rural area, North Louisiana. Anthony couldn't pass the ACT. Very low scores. Looked at it, probably took it over 12 times. Never could get it. I saw potential. I saw his verbal high potential, talking to him. Went on down the road a little bit further. Marvin Caston, which many of you know, Razorback Foundation, same thing. I saw potential. Never gave up on him. A lot of coaches went through and say, oh, they're not going to pass the test. I said, those are two incredible individuals that just need a different approach, because I see the tremendous potential. How many kids walk into your class that have that same type of opportunity? They just need us to identify that potential. Not to assess and say they can't make it, but as Mr. Luckadoo said, I can make it. And we're going to be the difference. So I give you that to say I'm so proud when we can take someone who other people say that they can't, and we become the I can. And I tie that into a little acrostic that I call SERVE. And every morning that I wake up, that's what I say I'm going to do wherever I am, because that's what you're getting ready to do. It made me feel good last week when Anthony tweeted out on Twitter and touched me, and he said, Coach Hill, this wouldn't have happened without God and you going into the Hall of Fame. My student is taking me into the Hall of Fame. I wouldn't make it otherwise. So my student is getting me someplace because what we saw in him, and you got so many that you're bringing up to do the same thing. So let me encourage you, let me coach you to keep doing a few things. Number one, keep sacrificing as you serve. A little extra, go a little extra mile. Find out where they live. Are they hungry like you've been doing? Energize. You're the thermostat that sets the temperature. You keep doing it. See, I can't imagine. When I see people not speaking to children, I can't imagine people not talking to children, because you are giving that energy. You are sometimes their energizing bunny, because you help them keep going and going and going and going. You know why? Because you oftentimes are the responder. You are the first responder. So amazing when we look at why kids are not matriculating. It's not so much the teachers. It's sometimes when they go home. You going that extra step to respond, that's the first line of defense. You're responding. You are a first responder to a crisis before they drop out. I know you've read all the time about kids not going to school. So amazing. I wouldn't have graduated from Ouachita Baptist University hadn't Coach Buddy Bob Benson not come to my house after my father had died and my mother had an aneurysm. All within 6 weeks, I was in depression. A coach came and got me. That's why I stand here today. He was a first responder. Why? He gave me a vision. of where I was supposed to be, not where I was. And you know what happened? He empowered my life, which now allows me to empower a community. I want to call a play for you to serve. As your coach, let's continue to serve and help these babies get into the end zone. God bless you, and thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Doctor. So glad to have you with us today. We've done this so often, but I know this is an empowering act. Turn to your friends on both sides of you. Big smile, right quick. That's the loudest smile I've ever heard. Okay, I think we've seen this demonstrated over and over already this morning. Now then, to each side, this term, inspire, inspire. Go, inspire. Say it to each other. It's amazing how powerful that term is. I'm going to meander here just a little. That doesn't surprise anyone, does it? We've said thank you to a lot of deserving people, and I appreciate you doing that. There's one group that I really don't want to miss because they've been so invested in trying to not just set the stage for this event, but set the stage for the school year. I want to ask our central office team to stand. Dr. Jared Cleveland, will you please stand? Where are you? Give him a hand. Would you do that? Dr. Marcia Smith, will you please stand? Beautiful, beautiful work. Mr. Kelly Hayes, would you please stand? Great job this morning, by the way. Van, again, thank you as well. Ms. Shannon Tischer, would you please stand? Ms. Maribel Childress, would you please stand? Unless he's moved, he got here really early to get the very back seat this morning. Mr. Damon Donnell, just wave. You don't even have to stand up. But look at him. He's standing up. He's had a little knee surgery, but he's coming back in a big way. There's a gentleman behind the curtain. Paul, would you please come out for just a moment? Who, me? Mr. Paul Miller, ladies and gentlemen. Paul, thank you for all you do. Great work. This is a very special team, as you know, and it's made up of many others. It has been my pleasure this morning to do the welcome, to give some set to what I believe will be a great experience. We're going to move from here into entertainment. Entertainment.
Okay, I don't know if Dr. Rollins is going to allow dancing in the building, but we're about to hear for the first time from not the superintendent's band, but the superintendent's rock band. And they're going to perform for you, ladies and gentlemen, for your enjoyment.
The teacher is teaching the golden American history and practical math. He's studying hard, hoping to pass. Working your fingers right down to the bone. The guy behind him won't leave you alone. Ring, ring goes the phone. The cooking the lunch or ready to serve. You're fortunate if you have time to eat. You're fortunate if you have time to eat. Back in the classroom, open your book. The teacher don't know how mean she look. Soon as 3 o'clock rolls around, you finally lay your burden down. Close your books, get out of your seat. Down the halls and into the street. Up the corner and around the bend. Right to the juke where you go in. Into the slide. You gotta hear something that's really hot. All day long you've been making romance. All day long you've been wanting to dance. Feel the music from head to toe. Round and round and round you go. Hail, hail, rock and roll. You live me from the days of old. Long live rock and roll. The beat of the drums loud and cold. Rock, rock, rock and roll. The feeling is there, body, soul. Good morning, Springdale! We're gonna do our next and last song. This is a song about the month that school used to start in. The 21st night of September, love was changing the minds of pretenders while chasing the clouds away. Our hearts were ringing in the key that our souls were singing as we danced in the night. Remember how the stars stole the night away. With you, holding hands with your heart to see you. Only blue talking love, remember how we knew love was here to stay. Now December found the love we shared in September. Only blue talking love, remember the true love we shared today. Thank you.
For those of you too young to know this, the first song was a Chuck Berry song, School Days. Some of us remember those. And that was, of course, September by Earth, Wind, and Fire. You just heard, by the way, the best dancing was up in the balcony. I was watching you all. That was Jeremy Ford from HAR-BER was the drummer. C.J. Morris from HAR-BER on percussion. Alan Showalter from Southwest was on the bass. James Hendricks, not Jimi Hendrix, but James Hendricks, he was on the guitar from J.O. Kelly. Chris Shelby from Lakeside was on the guitar. Chris Moore from George was on the trombone. Julie Huffman of Hellstern was on the trumpet. And Zach Brown from the School of Innovation, Don Tyson School of Innovation on the trumpet. Okay, Dr. Rollins, it's all yours.
I'm going to have soldiers come back up here if you don't do better than that. Come on. There's so many people I want to thank this morning. We never give enough attention to our school counselors. Counselors, would you please stand and let us recognize you? Almost 60 strong, serving the needs of each and every student. We've got a new group of very special people that's joined us. We started last year with our social workers. We've grown that group this year, I believe, to 11 now. Social workers, would you please stand? Let us thank you. A very special person who helps us every step of the way, look over the pupil support services role, to help build policy that serves all children in the district well. Ms. Kendra Clay, would you please stand and let us thank you. Beautiful job. I want to do one other special group recognition, if I might. The Archer Learning Center has been a great addition to our school system. Overall, we serve more than 600 at-risk kids in our district. That program has just gotten better and better and better. This year, our Learning Center will have a new home. And when you move, when you pick up all your things and relocate, maybe you're going to a much better facility, but it requires an enormous amount of work on the part of the team. Dr. Davis, would you please stand along with your staff and let us recognize the Archer Learning Center. Ladies and gentlemen, it takes a team. Turn to each other one more time. What's the word? Inspire, inspire, inspire. And I know, I'd be the first in line. I'd be asking, how? Well, you'll know how. And you'll collaborate with your fellow teachers. And you'll use those PLCs to the highest limit. And you'll talk about ways to engage, to empower, to inspire our students as we never have before. Let's borrow from McAuliffe as we do so often. We touch the future, we teach. We influence the future, we teach. All means all. I don't want you to forget Paisley's lick on that guitar. Can we do that? You might see some of that coming up a little later in the program this morning. Okay. Listen to this quote. I don't know if you can see it, but let me read it to you. Because it really, at this point, I think in all of our careers it causes us to come back and be thoughtful. Our job is not to prepare students for something. Our job is to help our students prepare themselves for anything. Wow. That's a paradigm shift, would you say? Our job is not to prepare students for something. I visited with a lot of people in our business community almost on a daily basis. And I talked with them about this quote, and they absolutely affirm it. They attest to what we all know some things about, in that the rate of change is so fast that it's hard to say we're going to prepare you for this specific job. We've always focused on literacy and numeracy and the social well-being of our children. They're asking us to continue to do other things, to reflect about doing other things, but they're also very clear. They're not asking us to do it by themselves. I've never seen a community come forward the way the Springdale community is prepared to do at this point in time. My encouragement, and I'll repeat this a couple times in my remarks that I'll close in just a moment. They are prepared to be partners with us. We have to come to grips with our willingness to throw the doors of our classrooms open and to invite the business community and other partners with enormous expertise in multiple fields to sit with us, to talk with us, to let us share our plans for the year. And if they have suggestions that would help us get more to the point in terms of what we do, my encouragement is to do that. I want to build a scenario, and I did that when we met just a day or so ago. We walk up the staircase. You know, we've spent the last 5 years dealing with personalization and innovation ready. We anticipate there's many other steps on that staircase because excellence is not a destination. It's a pathway. It's a stairway. I ask you to consider when I spoke with you application of learning ready as a potential next step. Our keynote speaker today, whom I think you will enjoy immensely, will talk about that entrepreneurial spirit. That certainly has a place on the stairway as well, and we'll look and think about that. Our job is to prepare our students for anything. It is a growth process without question. We all know that. It's not something we get there individually at any given point in time. We look back over our careers, 1 year, 10 years, 20 years, 30 or more. And we build because of the relationships we have with each other. And we learn about all of those scaffolding experiences that have to come together to support each and every step. We will never move away from teach them all. That will always be our foundation. All means all. We could spend our careers focused on that, and I'm encouraging us for that to always be a central part of our work. But we're learning more. We're improving. We're getting better at getting better. It's a growth process. Let's look at creating an empowered environment. You've read the work by Spencer. You've read the work by Giuliani, Empowerment, Launch. Great books that really set the stage for us to look at and think about our next steps. And then together as a team, we'll figure out how to do that. But look where it starts. Can you see this? I asked you when I spoke with you, how many of you do an interest inventory in terms of things that your students would really enjoy learning more about? Things that might better connect them to the learning. Virtually every hand in the room went up. That's a beautiful thing. We need to know where our kids' interests are. That term empathy and efficacy are so very powerful as we set the stage. So attentive and committed to our children's interest. We need to be thoughtful day one, how we're going to begin to explore that and to identify, if you will, that portfolio for each and every kid. Again, preparing them for anything, preparing themselves for anything. So that means the teaching act is so extremely powerful. How might we, in a kind and a positive and a loving way, be attentive to the needs of each and every child, preparing them for anything. Teachers tapping into their interest, asking, what do you want to learn? Inspiring possibilities. And here seems to me to be the essence of this conversation, helping students make their own path. Not doing it for them, not charting it for them, but to lay the foundation, to bring the skills forward, to help them be thoughtful so that they can what? Be more and more in charge of their own learning. And we've been down that road for about 10 years in this district. So this is not something that's new that we just jump at. We build on it, we build on it, we build on it. We walk up that staircase together. This idea of creating and personalizing. So again, just the next slide under empowered. Key terms. Students owning their own learning. Viewing mistakes as a learning opportunity. You know, that applies to all of us, doesn't it? We're going to make mistakes along the way. We're going to stump our toe. There's going to be rocks in the road. We have to learn to maneuver around that. And as their teachers, we have to help our students do the same thing. So we experiment, we explore, we solve problems. If we borrow from Kuros's attributes or qualities, if you will, of creativity, not just problem solvers, but problem finders, to be able to identify the problem, then to give definition to it and begin to solve it. And this idea of iterative thinking that again builds and builds and builds on our experiences. The idea is self-directed, self-directed, self-directed. We have to shift, in my opinion, and yes, it is a paradigm shift, from making the subject interesting to tapping into the student's interest. All of that leads to student ownership of learning. It's not about giving students a roadmap for learning, it's really helping them design their own. You heard Mr. Owenby speak to it. It's already been addressed by Mr. Schaefer and others. I know our principals have done such great work. And oh, by the way, there's one other group of people that I do not want to miss. If you're a building principal or assistant principal in this district, please stand. Teachers, help us thank these great people for their work. Oh, by the way, they're just the best there is. Principals, thank you for all that you do. I want to, rather than me trying to capture Simon Sinek's essence of his word why, let's listen to this video.
I call it the golden circle. Why, how, what? This little idea explains why some organizations and some leaders are able to inspire where others aren't. Let me define the terms really quickly. Every single person, every single organization on the planet knows what they do, 100%. Some know how they do it, whether you call it your differentiating value proposition or your proprietary process or your USP. But very, very few people or organizations know why they do what they do. And by why, I don't mean to make a profit. That's a result. It's always a result. By why, I mean what's your purpose? What's your cause? What's your belief? Why does your organization exist? Why do you get out of bed in the morning?
What drives us? What causes us to get up in the morning? What really keeps us up at night, sometimes thinking about, could I try that? Are they ready for that? Our why. I hope you'd come back. Marcia and Shannon and Maribel I were in the office one day talking about our why. And I was thinking they were like me. There were a lot of meandering answers to that question. So I tried to pull them back to center. And it was pretty easy for all of us as we focused. Teach them all. Every one of them. All means all. I would ask you to be thoughtful of that as you try to identify your why. I do want to share with you a very special video now, if you will. We've got a group. There are so many things that drive us, that cause each of us to do what we do. Here's another suggestion, and it's been said already. Have fun as we go. Enjoy the moment.
I will never forget that cup of coffee. Well, a couple years ago, I was traveling when my schedule worked out on Christmas Eve. I thought the airport was going to be a zoo, so I got there a couple hours early. It wasn't crowded at all, so for me, that means coffee. So I get down into my Terminal D, and I see the sign, I get in line, so it's my turn to order. And I was greeted with this very warm and sincere welcome. This woman said to me, "Hi, my name's Lily. What's your name?" I said, "I'm Ryan." She said, "Ryan, what can I make for you today?" I said, "Well, I want a grande pumpkin spice latte." She said, "You want whipped cream on that, don't you?" I said, yeah, I want the whipped cream. She said, "I'll tell you what I'm going to do." She said, "I'm going to make it extra hot, load it up with whipped cream, sprinkle a little nutmeg on top. You're going to love it." I said, "Sounds great." She said, "Where are you going?" I said, "Cleveland." She said, "Are you going back to Cleveland to spend a holiday with your family?" I said, "Yes." Now, at this point, I start looking around for the camera, right? I mean, I'm trying to get a latte. So I move down the line, and the conversation continues, and she's funny. She's asking me questions about my family and our holiday traditions. She's laughing, and I'm laughing, and she hands me my drink and says to me, "Ryan, have a safe trip back to Cleveland. Go create some extraordinary memories with your family. When you come back through the Minneapolis airport, I want you to stop here and tell me all about it." As I get my drink, I start walking away, and I stop and I look back at this woman, and I think to myself, you know, it's Christmas Eve. Most people would rather be anywhere else in the world than serving coffee in an airport. Not her. It was like she was meant to be there. And I couldn't help myself. I had to go back. So I did. I walked back and I said, "Excuse me, Lily." And, you know, she jumps around. "Ryan, is everything okay with the latte?" I said, "No." I said, "The latte is perfect. I just had to come back and ask you, what is your secret to making such meaningful connections over serving coffee?" Well, she corrected me. She said, "Ryan, I'm not serving coffee. I'm pouring happiness into people's lives." I said, "You're pouring what?" She wants to be happy in her life. She wants to be around happy people. So she chooses, even on Christmas Eve, to smile, to have fun, to help people, to just be happy.
That makes you smile, doesn't it? It sure does me. This is the staircase we worked on. We've walked up the staircase to Innovation Ready. Let's go to what I'm asking you to look at in the year ahead. You may not be able to see it. Can you read the top landing on the staircase? It says application ready. Application ready. And I wonder if you spend a few minutes with this, and again, think about, that may take 40 years. I've got growing and stretching and clarifying and depending or deepening knowledge, if you will, and understanding. Experiences, maturing, empowering, student agency, student voice, personalization, launching, and then this idea of becoming, self-actualizing, becoming, etc. I want to show you, I brought you everything but popcorn this morning, so imagine popcorn, if you will. But we're going to look at one more video, which may be the most powerful of all, and it comes right back to each of you and to our role as a teacher, with students in front of us, and us being intuitive, attentive enough to look at their needs, where they are, and make suggestions all along the way that helps them get better and better and better. Let's look at this video by Mr. Jensen.
I have a lot of memories from when I was a child. One that's always stuck out to me, though, was when I was about 10 years old, and I was in school, and I struggled. And I didn't struggle with English, math, or science. I struggled holding still. And I would try to listen and focus and process ideas, but I couldn't help myself. And to be honest, I would sit there and then I would just start tapping. And the students in the class would look at me and they'd say, "Hey, stop tapping." A lot of the time, I didn't even realize I was doing it. And then eventually even the teachers got after me and they would yell at me and they'd say, "Clint, you have to stop tapping." It got so bad that I got sent to the principal's office for tapping. And he said to me, "Okay, maybe when you go back to class, just try sitting on your hands." So I did. I went back to class, and when I felt myself starting to tap, I did this. I sat on my hands. And that worked for about 5 seconds. One time I was tapping in class, and my teacher, Mr. Jensen, he looked at me, and he yelled. And he said, "Clint, stay after class." And I thought to myself, this is it. I am done. Now, I've always been the type of person that believes that a single moment in time can change a person's life. And this was one of those moments for me, and I will never forget it. And so I was sitting there with Mr. Jensen and an empty classroom. And he walked past me and he sat next to his desk and he said, "Clint, come here. I want to talk to you." And as he looked me right in the eye, he said, "Now, I need you to know something. You're not in trouble. But I do have just one question that I have to ask you." And he asked, he said, "Have you ever thought about playing the drums?" And in that moment, Mr. Jensen, he leaned back and he opened the top drawer of his desk. And he reached in and he pulled out my very first pair of drumsticks. And he held them in his hands and he looked at me and he said, "Hey, Clint, you're not a problem. I think you're in trouble." Moment on, I've never put those sticks down. I've toured, recorded, and played drums all over the world. My whole college education was paid for with drumsticks in my hand. Just because of a single moment in time when somebody believed in me, and he saw something in me that I didn't even see within myself. And from that moment, I learned that there's a difference between being the best in the world and being the best for the world.
Ours is the greatest profession on earth. We teach in the public schools right here in Springdale, Arkansas. The public school is America's greatest invention, and we have a chance, just like Mr. Jensen, to make our schools, the services for our children, better and better and better in the year ahead. Thank you for choosing to serve in the Springdale Schools.
Okay, except for dancing to the rock band, you've been sitting for quite a while. Everybody want to stand up for about 30 seconds? Stand up, stretch a little bit. 30-second break, how's that? Okay, you ready for some more entertainment? Okay, now this group sang this song, put it on YouTube, and they've had over 34,000 views. They are the J.O. Kelly Boys Select Choir. And the reason they want to sing Stand By Me to You is because they thank the Springdale teachers for standing by them. The J.O. Kelly Boys Select Choir.
Once the night has come and the land is dark and the moon is the only light we'll see. No, I won't be afraid. No, I won't be afraid. Just as long as you stand by me. So darling, darling, stand by me. Whoa, stand by me. Oh, stand by me. Stand by me. Stand by me. When's the sky that we look upon should tumble and fall, or the mountains shall crumble to the sea. I won't cry, I won't cry, I won't cry, I won't cry. No, I won't shed a tear, just as long as you stand by me. So darling, darling, stand by me. Whoa, stand by me. Oh, stand by me. Stand by me. Stand by me. So darling, darling, stand by me. Whoa, stand by me. Oh, stand by me. Stand by me. Stand by me. So darling, darling, stand by me. Whoa, stand by me. Oh, stand by me. Stand by me. Stand by me. Oh, stand by me. Stand by me. Stand by me.
Thank you. I'm sure we can all agree today has been an absolutely amazing morning so far. Can we hear it? So let's look forward to tomorrow. We know tomorrow you guys are going to have students in front of you and they are going to be so eager to learn. And you're going to have some that are maybe not so eager to learn. That was not meant to get a laugh. You're going to motivate them. You're going to be the facilitator of learning for them. And you're going to empower them. That's a big task. You guys are going to be their inspiration. It's going to be amazing. In Springdale, you were chosen to be in this amazing district. And we know that the mantle that you carry for educational excellence is for our students. And we know that our students need us, and they need us every single day. So know that what you're doing comes with big responsibility. Our focus this year, you've heard it about 4 or 5 times, is start with why. And we know that teachers are leaders, and we know that leaders know their why. A wise man once said, "It doesn't matter if a child comes to us from across the street or across the ocean. When they get to our doors, they're one thing, and what is that?" Can I hear that a little louder? Exactly. They come to our doors, they become our students. We are the best district, and we are best because our collective why is all means all. And what does that mean, all means all? It means teaching for all, but it also means that all students will learn. So all means all. So I want you to take a moment and close your eyes. I want you to think of a student, any student. And I'm guessing most of you had one pop up immediately. I want you to think of one particular thing that you observed in that student. Some of you remembered the student that needed some, maybe redirecting might be a good word. Some of you remember the student who was always eager to please. And some of you maybe even thought of that child who really needed you. Now, I want to focus on the student's strengths. William Pollard said, in examining the potentials of individuals, we must focus on their strengths and not their mistakes. We can't be limited to what might have been spilt in the kitchen. So let's say it again. We must examine the potential of our students, and we do that by focusing on their strengths. So what will happen if we focus on strengths of our students? I want you to think about that student just for a minute. What is that student's potential? Every student has potential, and you've identified one. What is their potential? Where could that child be tomorrow, the next day, in 20 years? Have you had a lasting impression on that student? Have you shared with that student the potential that you see in him or her? I want you to reflect on that for a second. So I'm going to challenge you this year. Metaphorically speaking, I want you to share your drumsticks with your students. I want you to have an impact on their success. So in just a minute, you're going to watch a short video that's going to introduce our keynote speaker. But what I want you to do as he comes forward is I want you to keep a mind of that one student that we were just thinking about. You've thought about their strengths, you've thought about their potential, and your focus should be, where can we take this child? And so as Mr. Don Wettrick shares his innovative practices and promoting and inspiring your students' potential, please be thinking of that. So I'm going to actually have this video introduce our keynote speaker, Mr. Don Wettrick.
If you're a lifelong learner looking to level up your intellect, there's no better guest than the man joining us today. He's a powerhouse high school educator who has gained national attention for working with other like-minded teachers to turn a TED Talk from Daniel Pink into an educational revolution. Hell-bent to bunker bust the outdated educational model of subservient students and out-of-touch teachers, he's a vanguard for the exciting educational reform that's taking place in schools across this country at this very moment. His often controversial methods have raised ire in the more traditionally minded, but they have also delivered staggering results. His students have lectured at Stanford University, written and produced an on-air television commercial, collaborated with countless high-level entrepreneurs in prestigious universities, filed for and received multiple patents, and executed projects that have been reported on by the national media, all before graduating high school. He is a self-proclaimed perpetual student who is bringing Silicon Valley-style innovation labs to today's youth by shifting the focus away from grades and standardized tests to creativity and critical thinking, and showing his students how to learn from failure and the criticism that comes from sharing your work with the world. The immense body of information that he has published on and offline is an indispensable resource for parents, educators, and business leaders alike, as well as students all over the world. This guy's openness, transparency, and hunger for self-improvement are inspiring, and his book, Pure Genius, Building a Culture of Innovation and Taking 20% Time to the Next Level, shows anyone interested how they can build a culture of creativity and passionate pursuit into their family, classroom, or business. Please help me in welcoming the man who is finally making the classroom a safe place to fail, the educational wizard behind the wealth of worldly knowledge that is theinnovativeteacher.com, the winner of Centric's Indiana Innovation Award and host of Innovated on BAM Radio Network, Don Wettrick.
Thank you. Let me tell you how daunting it is to follow. Okay, so I shouldn't say this, but I do a lot of work in Texas as well, and they do everything bigger and better in Texas. Holy cow. You know how difficult it is to follow a student that is killing it? The rock band? It's hard for me to wrap my mind around. And then, yeah, thank you for finding that introduction, which that show was interesting because that's how some people that are fans of Simon Sinek, like Simon Sinek blew up after Inside Quest, and that millennial problem you've probably seen on Facebook and YouTube was that show. And so after that introduction was over, that's kind of his thing. He goes over the top in introductions. And so thank you for showing that. I'm going to ask to have that played on my death. Seriously, I am. Anyway, my name is Don Wettrick, and not going to put on airs. I'm a 21-year teacher, which is why, important here in a second. I'll explain why. But I want to talk to you about something today that I'm deeply passionate, and it might even be the sense of urgency to my voice might come across as anger at times, but I promise you it's not. But it's funny that we start with why. And in my opening slide, I ask why. When I go to schools, I ask you, why are you here? Like, what is really the point of education? You don't really have to be in a building anymore to learn. Matter of fact, I just learned how to fix something on my 2007 Honda Odyssey by watching YouTube, right? And it's amazing. But a lot of times what people answer is they said, well, to prepare them for, like if I ask elementary teachers, like to prepare them for high school and middle school. Or if I ask high school people, like, well, it's to prepare them for college. And while I respect those answers, a lot of times the number one answer, and probably correct one, is to prepare them for the future. To prepare them for the future. That's what's at issue here. And by the way, I think that being together is the best thing. A lot of online learning, they found that nothing beats better than in person. It's a great time to be a learner if we're starting to focus on the right things. I'm going to start off with my favorite quote. So my dad was a teacher, my sister is a teacher, my mom was a stay-at-home mom, which makes her a teacher, and the last thing I thought I was going to be was? Because everybody was. And so anyway, my first 3 years of my career, and I'm not going to say what it was because I don't want to throw disparaging remarks at it, but I wanted to be my dad. Really bad. And so when I'd go to bed at night, I just didn't really like what I was doing. And so I told them, I'm like, Dad, and by the way, my mom and dad paid for every cent of my education, which back in 1990 is really inexpensive. And so I said, I'm not asking for you to pay for my next degree, but I just want to tell you I'm going to go back and I'm going to be a teacher, Dad. And he said, Donnie, I don't care if you teach for the next 20 years. Just don't teach 1 year 20 times. And that made no sense to me until year 2. And that to me has been what innovation has stood for, is taking what's good, enhancing it, and also trying some experiments and going, it didn't work. which, by the way, I'm excited because I was talking to Dr. Rollins. You guys have that feel here that if it doesn't work, that's cool, no penalties. And if you want to try something new, it's encouraged. So want to go into one of the reasons, and really I think that a lot of times school is a business, and our business is to get kids to the next level. So I want to take a really brief aside from education and take a look at what a company did. So for those of you that are over 30, there used to be a thing called photos on paper, and they were wonderful. Matter of fact, my grandma always had the books out on the coffee table, and you could open up, and each one was labeled by years. And so anyway, Kodak was this huge company. But back in 1975, this is Steve Sasson, he said, guys, I see the future. And by the way, any hands have heard of Moore's Law? Cool, you're my people. Moore's Law this is the really cheap version of it. Technology doubles in speed and halves in price every X amount of years. And so he said, by the late 90s, maybe early 2000s, this will be it. And it was kind of funny because Kodak, which was a huge company, was basically said, no, it doesn't make any sense. And by the way, I don't blame them, because people were saying, what are you going to do, hang a camera on your wall? Put a digital camera on your coffee table? They didn't necessarily believe it, but they ignored the warnings. And they had the disadvantage of being huge. And we all know what happened to them. But the funny thing is really the digital camera didn't put out of their business. Instagram and your phone did. When you don't listen to the warnings, the message is innovate or die. Companies have come and gone if they don't stay modern, if they don't listen to their customer base, if they don't listen to some of the experts. And so this is why I'm going to take a look at what education, and by the way, I'm going to try to be as practical as I can, because there's a lot of vague things being said. So I want to share with you what I've done at my high school, and luckily enough, I was the innovation coordinator of the school, and I got to work with elementary and middle schools as well. So I'm going to try to take a really practical look at this. First thing we need to talk about is when people say education is broken. No, it's not. But some things are not broken, they're obsolete. For example, this is by the way, Anna was mortified that I told her I was going to use this. She has no makeup on, she just woke up in the morning. But these are 2 cell phones that I still own. I can't throw them away for some reason, this kind of nostalgia. But these cell phones are not broken. If you turn them on, they will work. And what's shocking to my kids is, you know what they were used for? Making phone calls. You know what my students and my kids never do? Call me. I swear to God, I texted you to be here 15 minutes ago. I didn't hear it ring. Anyway, those phones are not broken, they're obsolete. There are some things that we do, and by the way, again, a lot of what we do in our curriculum is awesome, but there are some things that are obsolete. Because we live in a day and age where you don't have to memorize a lot of things, you need to be able to applicate it. No one cares how much you know. This is a Tony quote, the creating innovators. Anyway, he says, no one cares about what you know. They only care about how much you can do with what you know. And so that is why we need to start taking a look at what innovation is doing to us. By the way, I swear to God, this will get positive here in a second, I promise you. But we all talk about it. Matter of fact, this picture right here was taken not too long ago. I went to the new McDonald's, and they are asking their employees to be in front of the counter and greet you. And they're like, hi, welcome to McDonald's. Would you like to use our kiosk? And I felt terrible. I'm like, no, it's okay. And my son, Grant's like, he started ordering immediately. And I was like, aren't you afraid this is gonna replace you? She's, yeah, but they're really pushing it on us. We've all talked about these things, and we know that's coming. We also haven't talked about the not so obvious things. Like right now, by the way, the average AP sports story is not written by a person anymore. If you want to see some scary machine learning things, watch machine learning learn how to play video games or even create its own music. And this isn't necessarily to be an alarmist, but there's a big change coming. And that big change is the number one thing that is valued is, can you come up with new original ideas that can also be executed? Let me repeat that. They can also be executed. Coming up with big ideas is awesome. And oftentimes we reward kids of coming up with big, huge, awesome goals. But we also need to take a look at how you execute that. So this is not my video, but I did want to show it real quick. This is kind of a scary look at what is about to come. By the way, those might be able to be ready for Christmas next year. The little Boston Dynamic. Has anybody been watching the Boston Dynamic videos of the Atlas robot? It's frightening. Now, yeah, like when I watched that video, and again, it's not necessarily fear tactics. These things are here, and everything you saw was at its worst level, because that was shot 8 months ago, and it keeps getting better. The one thing. The one thing I'm starting to look at, though, is that up to 2020, half the nation's jobs will be freelance or gig economy. Actual employers employing people is shrinking. People finding their own opportunities is the new reality. And this is where it gets happier, I promise. We don't need another school improvement plan. Our mission is our students need new opportunities to be able to act on these skills of the future. So the common theme now is students should innovate. Great. What does that look like? This is what we're going to dive into. And this sounds where I'm rhyming, and I promise you it's not silly, but the focus of my class, and really the focus of our work at the Started Out Foundation, is we're trying to create seekers and peakers, not moaners and groaners. I know it's kind of silly. It makes me sound like Johnny Cochran. But seekers and peakers are okay, so we all know what moaners and groaners are. Like right now on Twitter, people are complaining about whatever. And there's several things to complain about. That's cool. Seekers listen to moaners complain. Because when you have a list of things that are important to people and they're complaining about it, entrepreneurs seek those opportunities out to fix it. And as we say all the time in my class, opportunities are everywhere. Getting our students to first seek opportunity is everything, I promise you. What's scary and awesome is peakers be able to collaborate with one another. And I don't mean necessarily to share in pairs. Seekers that go, hey, we're looking at a trend here, and then, like, there's 4 of us. I have an insight into something, the other girl has an insight into something, so on and so forth. And you share information, and together you can peek around the corner and predict what's coming next. This is one of the reasons why some of our students got on the bandwagon early of things. I had students this is crazy, but I had students 7 years ago starting to trade Bitcoin, and then tried to get out because their dad was wanting to do it. Also on the esports side, 4 years ago, we started the nation's first esports team because we're like, this is gonna be big. And those are peakers. When you create those peakers, it's amazing. So I'm not saying this is the magic bullet, but one of the things that I really think that will help move along education, this is the practical part, is the whole 20% time Genius Hour movement. I'm a huge fan. Has anybody tried it before? It's about a 10 and 5%. Okay, that's fine. This is the time where you give, and this is, by the way, what Daniel Pink, I had an awakening. I watched Daniel Pink's TED Talk 8 years ago, and I've modeled my class around it ever since. But basically, the Genius Hour is, sometimes people choose Monday, sometimes people choose Friday, but it's about 20 to 30 minutes a day, or a week, where students find out what they're interested in and then have that class be able to look into and accomplish some things. And that's different from project-based learning. Project-based learning is when you set the parameters. Genius Hour is when they do. Matter of fact, people say 20% of what? And this is our kind of breakdown. 20% time is have to, need to, want to. This is really important. This is why I believe so much in 20% time. First of all, 50% of what you do, you have to. State of Arkansas said, here's our guidelines, and there's nothing wrong with that, although you might argue sometimes there is, but the have to is you have a job and you have a contract and it says you have to cover these standards. Awesome. Do that for half the week. The 30% of that time, things that you probably need to do. This is why I love project-based learning. This is why I love great projects, student activities. So you have basically your lesson for the week. You have some sort of follow-up activity. So you're looking at Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, maybe bleeding into a little bit of follow-up on Friday. And by the way, I'm just choosing Friday as the default Genius Hour time because that's what a lot of teachers do. But that last bit of time on Friday is 20% of what do you want to do with it? If you've inspired a child with a great unit, say it's a civil rights unit, you had to cover that unit, justifiably so. You probably need to have a really cool project on it, justifiably so. All right, what are you inspired now to do? That's the big leap. To say that you learned something and just learned it is okay, or let me rephrase it this way. I almost hate saying this, but it's the truth. I did not go to college to learn. I went to college to get a degree. I played the game of school because that piece of paper employed me. Now, that is so, like, think about how silly this sounds now in 2019. You sit down for a job interview. What can you do? I have a degree. What skills do you have? I have a degree. Our competition is catching up to us. What fresh insights do you have? Is this going to be on the test? Compliant, sit down and shut up students are no longer needed to be hired. They're never going to out-memorize a robot. They're never going to outperform the algorithm. People are begging for innovative, practical, get stuff done students. And this is why we've worked with so many entrepreneurs in the last 5 years. This is what they're begging for. Let me also break it down per level. At the elementary level, this can be 30 minutes on a Friday. This sparks imagination and creativity. This is where some people call them passion projects, challenges. This is also collect and connects. Collect and connects are a great way for you to collect as many ideas as possible or problems, and then you connect two things together. Like, for example, if you said to a third grade class, tell me as many Fortnite dances as you can, collect those together. And then you say, okay, try to connect the two. Or better yet, try to collect and connect Fortnite dances with different things you can do on Minecraft, and try to get creative with those. They'll go nuts on trying to challenge themselves to do those collect and connects. The middle school level is where I find it most interesting because a lot of by the way, I taught middle school for 10 years, and I know I'm not just pandering to you middle school people, nobody has it worse. It's the Jan Brady of education. Cindy's cute, she's got the lisp, and Marsha. And then Jan just gets overlooked. Having been taught in middle school, oh my gosh, we had a test for everything. Not only the I-STEP, but then the NWA, and all. We never stopped. And we never had the excuse of, well, it's not my fault. Because as a junior, by teaching juniors and seniors, I'm like, well, the kid didn't pass the I-STEP, it's not my fault. Should have been the sophomore teacher. Middle school, we had it coming from. So when a teacher says, I don't have time for this 20% time genius hour, you might have time once every 5 weeks. Team it. A genius hour can be shared. This week, it'll be the science teacher. Next week, it'll be the social studies teacher, and so on and so forth. And by the way, it's also a really great way to bind teams together, because a student that is working on like the student that came out and talked a while ago, by the way, thank you for not making me follow him. Dear God. Him working on a project would have been out of my league, but a science teacher might have been able to help. So this is why I love innovation time at the middle school level. It just works if you want it to. And by the way, you can also vertically align these. I worked with a school in Weatherford, Texas, where they started in third grade, and every student that really wanted Genius Hour, they were made sure that if they had Mrs. Smith in third grade, they were going to get Mr. Anderson in fourth, and then get Mr. So-and-so in fifth. And then by the third year, every teacher wanted to have Genius Hour. They all wanted to have that innovation track. So it was really, really cool. And then lastly, this is just just in the spirit of time, I'm not going to play the whole thing, but this is what we created. We had found at the high school level that 20 minutes on a Friday wasn't good enough anymore. So we petitioned the state, and we started a class called Innovation and Open Source Learning.
I have an innovation class that we learn by doing. We kind of have a philosophy in here that we think that there should be one period in the day where students come to school to learn the things that they're passionate and deeply involved in. We basically call it the innovation class because that's essentially what we do. We innovate. We see things that we think need to be improved, or we see things that could be better, and we want to collaborate with outside experts, learn from the best people, amalgamate all these opinions and ideas, and kind of have a hub in whiteboard space and be able to collaborate with not just our students, but with people around the world. There's not many school corporations that have a vision of what innovation is. They have a huge tolerance for risk here. They like taking chances. They understand the genius and the wonderful power of failing and adapting and learning how to pivot and things like that. And they don't just give it buzzwords, they do it. We had 4 patents filed last year. 4 patents. Kids. And some of them are amazing stuff. Ironically enough, one of them is a kid that in the graduating class of 658, he's number 658. He doesn't do school, but he's brilliant. And here is his environment. So I want to take these kids that are artistic and creative and kids that, can rebuild a carburetor. Those kids are smart. They just haven't been told they're smart because they don't want to, they don't have the AP exam and all this other stuff. So I'm thrilled because it's getting a lot of kids that don't think the school's for them to have a place where they know it's for them. Kids today are amazing if you give them some freedom and the autonomy that they desire, and you have an environment that they're like, hey, if I try to code this app and if it's awful, will you give me an F? No. I'll give you an A because I'm going to see progress in your first prototype and your second prototype and your third.
I cut it short. I want to wrap it up. But of course, the state of Indiana came out to film on Spirit Day. So you're like, why are those kids wearing silly hats? It was homecoming. At any rate, but no matter what, like the class we started was literally it started after I watched the Daniel Pink TED Talk, which I highly recommend you watch it. And it basically talked about some of the most innovative companies set aside one day a week for them to learn the things that they wanted to learn, and they had to report back on what they did. So I asked to have this class, and again, we called Innovation and Open Source Learning. And the innovation part is the first 6 weeks, we teach our students how to think for themselves. We ask them how to reframe problems, how to whiteboard. The other thing that I take very seriously is your social media. No disrespect, a lot of times social media in schools is taught not to do it. I'm quite the opposite. Matter of fact, I'm begging more students to be on LinkedIn. You know how many students are on LinkedIn? My students. There's not many. And they're starting to discover, like, humble brag moment. My daughter was on there, and then for like the first year, if you're a fan of Gary Vaynerchuk, she jabbed and didn't right hook. She basically found her mentors. And then she started posting online. She is a female entrepreneur. She's 18, and because of a video on LinkedIn, she was invited to speak at the UN this year in Geneva. At no other time in history would that ever occur. Some of our students were going to be able to collaborate with people because of LinkedIn. I literally give my, very passionate about, I literally give my students time to understand their digital brand, which sounds flim-flammy, but it's not. If you think my student is doing amazing things, it's better if the world sees that you guys are doing amazing things. Which, by the way, Jeremy, our marketing guy, is running around getting video clips. We're going to interview some students tomorrow. We want to digitally promote awesome work. Not just, no offense, not just for the kids that got the perfect SAT score. They're good for them. They get a lot of accolades. I talked earlier in that video about we had a kid that had a patent filed, and literally he was last. He wasn't going to graduate. Matter of fact, they worked out a deal where he got his GED so he could stay in the class longer. These are the kind of kids that the Innovation Open Source Learning class has, and I will be happy to talk to anybody that would want to start that kind of class at your high school. But in the meantime, high school teachers that want to have innovative things is exactly what we're talking about. By the way, this is just a good rule of thumb for anybody wanting to do innovative things, especially a Genius Hour. I had a rule of thirds. Number one, are you inspired by the project? Are you passionate about it? That's where most things begin and end. Are you passionate about it? Well, good if you're passionate about it. But number two, and this is really important, what skills are you going to develop? Because if you're just like, I'm really passionate about Fortnite, cool, bro, so am I. But are you going to develop a skill? If you can substantiate that, I might go on. But the third one is, who will it serve other than you? Ironically, I was talking about cryptocurrencies. I had a student that said, hey, I want to learn how to be a day trader. And I said, okay, rule of thirds, go, because everything that we had to just submit a proposal, right? So rule number one, are you passionate about it? He's like, money, I like money. I'm like, all right, fine. Number two, what skills are you going to develop? He's like, holds, puts, options. I don't know this stuff, but I'm going to learn. I said, oh, number three, who's it serving other than you? I don't know. I said, well, I mean, like, you can do it on your own, but I'm not going to give you class time unless you have number three. And he says, I can start a stock picking club during study hall. Done. He actually then would do simulations with other students. So I don't care if you're successful. I would just like it if you were nice. And if you also wanted to make other people successful in your wake. And so that's a rule we always have. The other thing, and getting to know, actually I met Shannon Tishner earlier, and then talking to Dr. Rollins and Dr. Smith, I love the fact that you guys are starting to really dig into like apprenticeships, internships. Keep going. I love that kind of stuff because what they're wanting to offer and some of the gems you guys have in your high schools, I think will be a blessing on other businesses around here. But that's also been a really big focus of ours. And then lastly, I'm going to get to the F words. These are the F words that I actively pursue in my classroom. And that is freedom, failure, fraternity, because I couldn't come up with another word for networking. Fear, friction, fun, flow, and forging a purpose. Freedom. this is the hard part, and I just want to say this and get it off the books. When we say, let's give our students more freedom, that is a very difficult thing past 8th grade. It's very difficult. Because students go, man, I wish there's a time of the day I get to do things that I want to work on. And I'm like, here it is. And they go, yeah, can you tell me what to do? I don't know what I want to work on. Freedom is tough. People prefer their prison cell. They like to complain about it. They go, oh man, this sucks. What would you do about it? Still. Stupid economy and stuff, and this thing, and I just don't like it. What's your answer? This is why freedom is hard, to get our students to think beyond the math test, to think beyond the social studies test, to think about, and by the way, if you ever want to panic a student in high school, ask them what their plans are. And it frightens me. I'm saying this with compassion. Is that I'll talk, matter of fact, I talked to a girl last night at our hotel, and she found out that I was going to talk to teachers, and the poor child was talking about her struggles because she had no direction. By the way, she did not go to Springdale Schools. She really didn't. But this is a time where they're starting to what's next? Just not complaining, not contemplating what's next, not having opportunities, but instead, all day is very stressful. When you watch successful people online and you're just watching them, it's a really toxic thing. Second is failure. I'm a big fan of failure. When people say kids don't like to fail in school, you're right, because we've set it up the wrong way. If you fail, it's bad. Anywhere else you learn, it's good. This is why I like video games. If you ask any kid, if you had to spend money, although now video games are free, in-app purchase, anyway, really expensive. But if you had to slap down $75 on a game and you beat it on its first try, you would hate the game. Now in college, that's called the cool professor. I remember when I went to college, we had this thing called the drop ad period, and you got to test drive your professor for 2 classes. Professor, hard guy, he walks in, sets his briefcase down. This is going to be a tough year. You're going to learn a lot. Get out, get out, get out. Professor Weed was like, hey man, we're just here to learn, man. Everybody's smart in their own way. You're like, that class was filled. You couldn't get in. Now, mind you, I loved that guy. But, I wasn't there to learn. I was like, so the video game example, you would not want that professor. You want to be challenged. You want to fail. Because if you don't fail, you're not learning. But now we put this system on, we're like, well, if you failed, I'm not going to bash into universities, but you're not going to get into that famous university because you took a risk. Ironic, well, again, I am going to, so in the video, they said we went out to Stanford, the kid that was the lowest in the graduating class of, some of the people there are like, oh my gosh, when you come in here? He's like, my GPA starts with a decimal point. Not joking. It started with a decimal point. And he says, you would never accept me here. Yet, he invented something that he beat several universities to it. And you're all right now I guarantee you're all right now thinking of a student you had who was smart as heck, just didn't have the grades. Why? Sometimes school just got in her way, or his way. So, the failure part is, allow some failure in your class, please. Let it look like a video game. Press reset. I didn't do well. Cool, bro. You get to reset. Fraternity. Okay, this is a total geek moment. Does anybody know who Tim Ferriss is? Oh, my heart. Okay. Thank you, the 3 people that raised your hand. So, our class, we try to network. We try to build a fraternity. This is us finally get a hold of Tim. Tim is Mr. Silicon Valley. He is, if you look up entrepreneur, he's on that chapter. And we just call out to people. Matter of fact, the whole reason we started the podcast is that we were starting to interview, in our opinion, big names. Simon, Tim, Dan Pink. These were titans to us. But we asked, hey, would you talk to a group of 30 students that are really interested in the future? That And then being able to like casually name drop, like, yeah, so anyway, I was talking to Tim Ferriss today. Although our big one, and this is when you guys are like, nuh-uh, meant nothing to me, but last year, we got Ninja to call into the class. Before the end of the day, we've never gotten views like that before. But, you know, we reached out. And matter of fact, it was a lesson of who would you want to collaborate if they would listen? And they're like, Ninja, it's like, let's do a video. Hey, Ninja, we're here with my, matter of fact, if you go backlogs through some of my Twitter, that's what we do in class. We'd reach out to people, normally scientists or engineers, but occasionally video game people that make millions of dollars. All right. I'm not going to play the whole thing, but this melts my heart. The other thing is fear. Get our students out of their comfort zone. This student was too shy to play, and because our class kind of looked like a coffee shop, you just kind of worked on your thing, and he'd kind of play guitar while we were working. Finally, a girl goes, you need to put these out on video. And he's like, no. She got out a camera one day, and so this is our classroom, the backdrop, you can't really see it, but she's like, I'm insisting that you do, and she recorded this to make sure that he got out of his comfort zone and put it on YouTube. So this is Eric Heinzman, if you want to follow him.
Train over the stars, but you didn't get me very far. Oh no, 'cause all my problems, they follow me. And I flew to the moon, but it wasn't far enough away from you. Yeah, 'cause all our problems, they follow me. Yeah. And every night I close my eyes, all my troubles fade. And every morning when I rise, I'm just sleeping in this bed I made.
So the reason why I share that, isn't that so daggone cute? Which, by the way, like a lot of girls liked Eric after that video. My own middle school daughter, she's like, hello. He's your student? He's cute. I'm like, stop it. 2 daughters. The reason also, like, the afterwards is, like, we end up finding a partnership that we distributed his music, and he ended up finding that if organizations like Mr. Holland's Opus Foundation would help promote it, he would donate money to them. And so he got, viral? No. But it allowed him to get over his fear and go, what's the worst thing that can happen? Did he have a few things said about him online that were not as nice? Of course. You suck. Okay, you play. I don't think he does. I think he's fantastic. But like getting over that fear and promoting our students' work is something that we valued. Friction, and this is kind of a long piece, so I won't go the whole way, but also, like, who are you disrupting? This girl who was so shy, she only looked down at the ground at the beginning of the year, is now talking to other universities, and this girl really made people mad. So enjoy.
Love scenes like the one behind us, right? Seeing a sunset in time-lapse video. But what happens after sunset when we replace the natural light with our own? Tonight, Eric Halverson has a lesson in light and dark.
Well, it's an example of creative thinking, or the idea that we should think global and act local. We found someone who told us after dark there can be too much light, and she's trying to ease the problem of light pollution.
Admit it, sometimes you're distracted by sunlight when it streams through a window on a warm afternoon. It happens to all of us.
Mostly because I daydream a bit too much, so it's nice to be able to look out the window.
But Jessie Elliott doesn't always dream like the rest of us.
It's a flat lens Cobra head. We have drop head Cobra lenses, and then we have downtown what's referred to as acorn fixtures.
Jessie is a soft-spoken, deep thinker.
Bit too much about light bulbs.
But light and dark, and keeping them apart, is Jessie's class project at Noblesville High School.
We just want to do as much light as possible and the cheapest light possible.
Look at our city streets. Look look at our parking lots. Look at how light traces the outline of the continents.
We overdo it a bit.
And overdoing it creates something called light pollution. The glow of our lights obscures the night sky.
I think there's a way to do efficient lighting that's safe for everyone, and it doesn't use more energy than necessary.
So Jesse is working with leaders of Noblesville to modify the city's light guidelines. Duke Energy has helped.
These are the current notes I'm taking.
Jesse would prefer to have her head looking up into the sky rather than down, writing notes and reviewing documents.
I'm more interested in the scientific aspect, not necessarily the politics of it, but it's necessary with a project like this.
Now, Jesse would tell you if you're ever away from the glow of city lights, you'll know why she wants Noblesville to make some changes to slowly make it better.
I think it's hard to kind of put a value on your ability to see the night sky, but it's just, there's something that you like magical about being able to raise your child with a view of the night sky.
Another time, I feel not worthy.
Okay, so what I love is the continuation of that is she really made some people mad because when they said she was starting to work with politicians, she did. And she then testified before it went up for a vote. And she's like, I request that you shoot it all down because you watered down in committee and you should all be ashamed of yourselves. She's like, this whole bill is now completely pointless. I mean, this is a girl that would just like painfully shy. And now, through this work, like she's wanting to now work with developers. So, you know, like Energy Star appliances, like a refrigerator's got an Energy Star. She's wanting now to have new neighborhoods be Energy Star approved because she's now wanting more neighborhoods that instead of, and I now know about like exterior illumination, she wants downward firing head LED Cobra lenses because A, they're good for the environment and they're B, good for the night sky. And so these are like ways that people can deliberately cause some friction and that, you know, we want our kids to be socially active. This was a fun way of doing it. Also fun, remember fun. If your classroom looks fun, you'll have more fun. Again, I put up the League of Legends thing. A lot of teachers now are gamifying some things. Keep that up. Have some sort of fun interjected in your way. All right, this is where it also gets weird. It's flow states. We are an experimental class, so sometimes we have different methods. And so one year, actually last year, we started to do a lot of like deep breathing, meditation stuff, like 3 to 5 minutes. I've seen bunny breaths at the elementary version. In the video, you actually saw them like walking, whiteboarding. We do a lot of strange things, like getting and moving and whiteboarding is one of the things we do. But this is also, I seriously mean this for you, and I give 100% money back guarantee that this will change your life. Promise you, especially number 4 and 5. Number 1 is I try to get up 30 minutes earlier and at least walk and get some sort of oxygen to my brain, and I encourage my students to do the same. We actually had a little fitness club there for a while. Number 2, I then tackled my daily 3 list before school starts. I'm a morning person, and I got my daily 3 list because of number 5. More on that in a second. Number 3, whiteboard 1 problem a day. And I say this with no degree of irony because I know exactly where I'm at, but sometimes, and this is from a friend of mine told me this, I will go through Walmart late at night and look at products and start thinking of how these products could solve different problems in a different, unusual way. And no, I'm not pandering to Walmart. I just literally do that. But I try to whiteboard 1 problem a day. Gets my mind right. But then this is where I'm serious. This will change you. And I promise you it'll be somebody tonight. Somebody I will meet, but I send 1 email of gratitude or DM or of text a day, and it cannot be the same person in a year. And it's a challenge because January 1, it's probably my mom or my dad or my wife or my kids. They're done, right? By January 7th, they're done. Now, what am I doing? And this is so important, and I train my students to do the same thing. Right now, and this breaks my heart, people are spending hours at things that make them mad to prove their point. They are spending hours. I get it. You don't like the president. Okay. Why do you give him all the time? I get it. You don't like that Democrat. Okay. Instead, I want you to go, who do I really like? And that's going to be easy for about a month, if you're lucky. But then, and this is even what my students were like one girl, she's like, I was just walking down the hallway thinking, literally, who am I going to DM today? A kid drops all of his books, pencils go everywhere, a couple kids laugh, the one girl bends down, picks up his stuff and goes, here you go, DM that girl. I saw what you did, and I think that you're awesome. Here's what happens. And by the way, this is not a selfish thing, it just naturally happens. If you want to be loved, love. And when you all of a sudden out of nowhere go, I think that you're awesome, in a real way. Don't send it to Elon Musk, right? But you send it to people that you're like, dude, you do the hard work, you do awesome things. I've noticed what you've been doing for months. I just want to let you know, good job. You have created a bond that will forever, they're going to remember that. And I want my students to not spend hours on what makes them mad, but to be looking for opportunities to be happy. Do that. Promise you. Do that and you'll be happier, which gets them to flow state. And then lastly, and I'm not going to be emotional talking about this, so I'm going to get through this as fast as I can. This is Forge, the last F, and Forge Your Purpose is something I'm really passionate about. Robert's on our team, and I love Robert in a way that I can't express. Robert has, due to, unfortunately, on his 6th birthday, a murder-suicide. His dad killed his mom, killed the neighbor trying to break it up, and actually took a shot at Robert and missed. He is on a mission, and that mission is educating. At first, Gent Style started off almost exclusively for young black men, but he has a channel, and he's kind of a brand ambassador of, here's how you dress. Here's how you interview. Here's how you shake a damn hand. Here's how you collaborate with people. These kind of things go, he's wanting to make a difference. Why? Because he saw the other side, and now he's wanting to be a help. And so Robert, if you ever want to follow him on Instagram and on Facebook, and on Twitter, he's the real Robert Jones because he thinks he'll be a celebrity someday. So at Real Robert Jones, follow him. He's my favorite person. And then also just other podcasts and things that my students have started. Once they're on a mission, this is a podcast called Mentors with a Z, because this particular student thought that Gen Z needed better mentors. So they started interviewing people to impart really good wisdom on Gen Z. Forging your purpose. Allowing class time to say, I had to learn these things, I needed to learn it deeply, and then the teacher gave me time to do the things that I felt compelled. Now here's the problem, getting them to that point where they feel compelled. Do they feel compelled to do problems or solve the world's problems from the school building? That's a tough thing. So moving forward, I hope that some of these things are implemented in your classroom, because right now I think that the entrepreneur is the new superhero. Entrepreneurs create their own solutions. Matter of fact, I was just talking to Superintendent Rollins not too long ago, and I said, oftentimes, I'm afraid that the word innovation is so buzzy and so cliche now. Right before my book was put out, I just remember being mortified. There was a Cottonelle commercial that Cottonelle has a new innovative layer of softness. Something you wipe. But there's 4 quadrants here. There's imagination, creativity, innovation, and entrepreneurship. And I think that we overlook entrepreneurship. Every kid has a good imagination. Getting it onto paper is creativity. Doing it in a way that is really novel and not been done much or at all, that's innovation. But innovation sometimes can be misconstrued as clever. Oh, it's a clever thing. Clever means what? It's novel. When our kids are innovative and they start looking at this, and by the way, this is why my class was never called entrepreneurship. It's called innovation and open source learning. Be innovative first. And if you've got something, you might as well take it to market. You might as well allow it to be an event or something that somebody can have because you brought it to the world. So I'm now a really big fan of intrapreneurship, which means that even though you have a job, you can be looking out for opportunities for the company or the school. And entrepreneurship of you growing your event, service, product, app, whatever. Because I really think that, like, literally a community of innovators plus school support is the nation's biggest co-working space. Invite your mayor in to say, hey, we've got a group of kids that want to solve some problems. Ask them what's facing the city. Ask them what you can take on. Because those kind of by the way, that's our room is now painted. It looks a little bit more like Google. And that's exactly what I do. This is my only time. This is a shameless plug, and this has nothing to do with a book or anything else. But we are expanding. We're in 7 cities and we're growing. So if there's any interest, but Started Up Foundation is what we had started with the state of Indiana, wanting us to expand. And basically, Started Up Foundation is every month we have an event, normally at a co-working space, where we get students together from various high schools, and then they listen to a small business or usually nonprofit. We're talking a nonprofit like 3 to 4 people. Like the last one we did in May was for Family Promise of Greater Indianapolis, a family homeless shelter. And so we do, like, first 15 minutes are pizza and Pepsi. Hi, I'm from Noblesville. I'm from Carmel. Nice to meet you. A little collab networking time. And yes, students should network. Then Family Promise basically made a pitch, a reverse deck. Here's what we are, here's what we do, here's what we need. And then we give our students 40 minutes to get into teams of 7 to 10 and whiteboard. And this is the gold standard. This is why I love what we do. One day, Hunter, my co-founder and former student, was like, Don, look at the kids. I'm like, what? He says, you know what they're not doing? They're not on their phone. They're engaged. Because they heard somebody that had a real problem and they wanted to solve it. Check out the hook. Sorry, I was on a really serious point. But they then, so once they come back after 35, 40 minutes, each team has to make a 3 to 4 minute pitch on what their solution is. This is my favorite part. We take in money to give away. So first of all, they always said, everybody did a great job. Stop it. What is your favorite? And they're like, team 3. We give them $500. No theoretical stuff. You had a great product or idea or service, and you said this would be good for them. How much can you do for $500? Go. At minimum, we're averaging around 60 to 80 kids a night. At minimum, 80 sets of eyes were listening empathetically to a nonprofit. And then we actually backed it with a little bit of money to seed fund. Anyway, so like right now we're in 5 cities across Indiana and now in San Antonio, Texas. If there's any interest to ever have something like that here in Arkansas, let me know. It's a little bit slow going because we literally now have a waiting list of 18 other cities. But the number one problem we have is finding a community champion, which is another name for a teacher. So if that's you, then talk to me afterwards. And then the other thing we do is we do skills acquisitions. We do hackathon. We do deep dives. So after that big talent pool of a lot of kids going to these events, about 20% of them want to do, like, you can graduate from high school and get a really good job at Salesforce, being a Salesforce administrator. We do some Salesforce training. You guys can learn how to code. There's a lot of Facebook ads and management. There's a lot of opportunities, and so we provide opportunities for kids in high school. And then lastly, and my favorite thing, we provide funding to high school entrepreneurs. Our last investment was a kid, he's 16 years old, and he's running an aquaponics and fishery in his farm. So he basically has created tanks. He buys trout that are that big, and in 26 weeks, they grow to where he takes them to market, and he's wholesaling, and the trout poop, right, is fertilizer for his lettuce beds. So he's producing about 150 pounds of lettuce, which he's now wholesaling anyway. He's 16 years old. And we're wanting that to be encouraged and fostered. And so people weren't going to take him seriously and get him funding, and that's all we do. It is a 0% loan. So if you know of that kid, they're like, oh, I know a kid, he's got an app or whatever. Like, we fund student ideas, and we take 0% equity. And we take 0% interest. If they're successful, we just want our money back in 2 to 3 years. If they fail, we didn't do good. Because we provide media, money, and mentors. I'm going to give them money. We're going to find them great mentors, because that's humble brag moment. Our mentors now and our network is getting ridiculously awesome. And yeah, we set them with other media. So if you ever want to follow our Facebook community, by the way, we're going to have a lot of videos about this. We're going to interview students tomorrow. We're going to go to some of the schools. But we want to showcase online the new normal. the new student, I've created an app and want to bring it to the world. So if you ever have an interest in that, please let me know. Lastly, if you're ever really bored, we have a podcast. This is where we get to interview people that are cool to us. So you may have never heard of these people, but like Jocko Willink, Gary Vee's a potty mouth, but he's interesting. Yeah, people like that. And then lastly, I cannot say how serious I am about this. If you need, like, we could go into deep dives on how to really unveil the 20% time in class, or if you're like, hey, I need for you to talk to some of my teachers at the elementary school level, I will Zoom, I will Skype. This is my email address. This is our foundation. My cell phone number is 317-488-7040. Seriously, 317-488-7040. I am deeply passionate, and this is also, like, I want you to call because this is going to be an emotional. This is the first year in this will be weird. School just started this week, and I wasn't there. And to do all this, I'm not going to be in the classroom anymore. So if you want me to peek in every now and then and just, deliver a message or help out with your classroom, just let me know. It would be an honor because I'm going to miss it a lot. Other than that, thank you so much for having me out. I sincerely appreciate it. Thanks. I did want to add one more thing. I mean this. You guys have all the opportunity in the world here. I've seen so many schools that are on the bookends. We have Ivy League elites and we just want them to be behaved. You guys are in the middle where a lot of innovation can happen. And I sincerely appreciate what your superintendent is doing already and the fact that you guys are great already. Brand that, put it out there on LinkedIn. And if there's any way I can help to amplify that, please let me know. Thank you so much.
Okay, before we leave, we've got a couple more entertainments. We love the students, don't we? These two students are from HAR-BER High School. Pedro Manon is a junior, and Samuel Loneman is a senior, and they are directed by Marcia McGowan. And the number that they're going to perform for you once we get set up is called Megalovina. And they'll be set up in here really good. Isn't it great to be here? You think about it, there are about 2,000 stories in this room. When you think about communications, and that's what our team does, we need your help on that. And when we tell good stories, we need to just share it. I want to share that with you. That's one of the most important things you can do is when you see a great story about your school or a student, share it. Okay, and now they are going to share with you. Great to see the talent we have in the Springdale School District. We have one more entertainment for you, and then Dr. Rollins will come up with some closing remarks. And we hope everybody has an absolutely fabulous year. As I was sharing before, tell us your stories, get it to Amanda or I, and we will certainly want to come tell your story for you and share them once we post them, please. Okay, our final entertainment session, you ought to really love this, the Southwest Junior High Select Men's Choir. Has been recognized as one of the top junior high men's choir in the entire United States. And this past spring, they were selected to play a very prestigious meeting in Kansas City, Missouri. They're directed by Alan Showalter and Ed Gay, the Southwest Junior High Select Men's Choir.
Just remain standing, if you would, for a moment. Y'all look pretty comfortable up there. Raise your hands like this. Will you do this for me? Real high. I see these on the front getting tired. Have we ever had such a display of our children, our students, their talents, their readiness to take control of their learning? Have we ever seen that before? Raise that with your applause. I think we've had a great logo in our district for a long time. It's served us really well. But when you see the transition that's taking place with personalized learning and our students ready to assume more and more responsibility for their learning, and our job to help them prepare to make that transition, our team just felt that it was time for us to show you another model, hopefully another logo, one that captures the spirit of this transition period like none other. Let's take a look as we transition from this logo, which will always be with us, will always serve us well, to what we're hoping that you will endorse. You get the idea? The trunk of the tree, obviously, is our children. What we're all about, our why. And then think of all the schools, all of the teachers in those schools that represent our service to them and our preparation of them to really pursue their future, their own potential and promise. This is a logo we think that captures the spirit of what our district will become tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow. We did a really neat thing, and I think you'll enjoy it as we close. We took a camera out into the community and talked with our partners, with our patrons, about the deep roots that make up the school system. And over time, let's think together. Those roots are always the learning of our students. Those roots are always the safety of our children. Those roots are becoming more and more about personalized learning. Those roots are becoming more and more about the school community partnerships that support us in making all these things happen. Those roots run deep in order to serve the 23,000 kids in our district. For those roots to remain strong, all of us have to continue to make the great contributions that have brought us to this point and that will take us further and further and further. Listen to what our community had to say about your work.
My favorite part at Carson House is making new friends.
There are lots of great teachers and they just help you learn. And if you want to give up, they just don't let you give up.
Thank you so much to all the Springdale faculty and staff for all your support throughout my years within the Springdale School District.
First best friend was a 6th string. Took him with me everywhere I go. When I was 18, bought a Dodge van. Found a drummer and made the road my home. Ooh, I wouldn't change a thing. It made the man I am today. My roots always keep me grounded. Roots remind me where I'm from. Even when I'm 1,000 miles away from my roots, I'm home.
Why do you love school? Because it's time, because for lunch time.
Springdale is my home. It's where my children grew up. It's where I grow my students daily.
I like Springdale because the community's growing. There's always opportunities.
Ooh, I wouldn't change a thing. It made the man I am today. My roots always keep me grounded. Roots remind me where I'm from. Even when I'm 1,000 miles away from my roots.
wouldn't live anywhere else. Springdale is, if you talk about community, you talk about people, having a business here, and the way we've integrated in, I mean, I love it. I wouldn't change a thing about it.
Teach the riders, not the riding.
It gets you stronger. Roots always keep me grounded. Roots remind me where I'm from. Even when I'm 1,000 miles away from my roots, I'm home. My roots always keep me grounded. Roots remind me where I'm from.
I teach in Springdale because this is home, from kindergarten through 12th grade, and we give amazing opportunities to students, like our East classroom.
This is home to me, and I love it, and my roots are here in Springdale.
We love that Springdale has a family feel to it, and it's just a sweet place to live. The people are really kind. It seems like the school district really try and invest in the kids.
I've seen the teacher, they've shown all the care, not just about the students, but also their families. I've seen them really spend time with them.
I think what makes Springdale Schools special is that the fact that you guys choose to invest in your kids now and choose to invest in them even after they graduate. So I thank you for what you do and keep being rock stars.
The impact that you have on your students' lives truly does last a lifetime. I know that it certainly has for me. So I just wanted to thank you all for your contributions and good luck in this new school year.
I know firsthand what a difference it truly makes that you guys have invested your lives into your students, and I would not have been afforded the opportunities I have today if it wasn't for many of the teachers that are sitting in this room right now.
Even when I'm 1,000 miles away from my roots, I'm home. Don't give up, hold on a little longer. Work don't care, only makes us stronger. Don't give up, hold on a little longer. Work don't care, only makes us stronger. Don't give up, hold on a little longer. Work don't care, only makes us stronger. Don't give up, hold on a little longer. Work don't care, only makes us stronger. Don't give up, hold on a little longer. What don't care only gives you stronger.
You're the best. Thank you for all you do. Have a great year. Teach them all.